I wonder if it could be on their end. I know sometimes I have to switch which speaker source I'm using,
They
whether.
just messaged me, said that works.
Oh, perfect. Oh,
You're good now.
Thank you. There was more cuts you messaged me too, so.
yeah.
Good.
Sorry for all the technology flaws today.
That's okay.
So anyway, if you could add those 3 meetings to county representation, and I don't know if you want that as a motion at a future meeting, that the appointed person for it might not hurt to do that.
So I just add it to the next one to make that.
I went to Thursday's active threat training. That was really good. I did the morning sessions. I wasn't able to stick around for the afternoon stuff, but I did the morning sessions. That was really good. And then I did have a meeting with John Gore from Dispatch and Keith Starr, continuation of an ambulance concern that we're working on, and we'll have another meeting this Friday with Green Volunteer Ambulance, and hopefully be able to get some things kind of resolved before taking it to the ambulance commission, have a plan of action anyway, if it needs to go there. And then attended the Floyd County Medical Center Gala event, which Boyd was there as well. Nice event, very nice event.
Mentioning the ambulance this morning, they loaded one of our AMR ambulances up on a truck that hauled it away. Had been in a wreck.
The one in the wreck a month ago.
I don't know how long ago it was, but they had to take it to Texas to get it fixed.
Oh,
So anyway,
yeah, that's probably one from that accident a month ago. Somebody turned.
how about fairgrounds out there?
So what is it?
Is it what it's okay?
Well, I think the gala was Rika was really well attended and just a really nice event, and I hope they keep it up. I mean, it's good. A lot of people there.
I didn't realize it was the hospital's 60th anniversary.
No,
Yeah.
with everything else, you know. So,
I attended the North Cedar Aviation Authority meeting on Wednesday, and their typical line of business, nothing exciting going on out there, so I will extend mine. Item 6 on the agenda. Review action regarding a request from Sue Loken, Learning Connection, to be fiscal agent for Iowa Child Abuse Prevention Program grant. Yeah.
And we'll let you come up to the podium here, Jill, and blow it up if you can too.
Hand you some things first. A little swag bag for everyone. Okay, we'll take another one, pass it on to someone you know that has young kids. And then our schedules of our classes are in there as well. And then here's some handouts for the things that I'm going to be talking about today. Thank you for the opportunity to come back and tell you about the Learning Connection program and ask for your continued partnership in the Learning Connection program through the Iowa Child Abuse Prevention Program grant. I don't know that, except for Gloria in a different capacity. Anybody was here 5 years ago when we requested this collaboration. But 5 years ago, we had an opportunity to apply for the ICAP funds. It was a 5-year grant. I've been doing Learning Connection for almost 30 years. I've never had a 5-year grant before. It was amazing, and we were very grateful to have that opportunity. That 5 years is now ending, and so for the next fiscal year, they are offering an opportunity for a 2-year plus a 1-year extension. So it could possibly be a 3-year grant, ICAP grant. I thought I'd just start by telling you a little bit about the Learning Connection program and then lead into the ICAP grant just to familiarize you with what it is that we do. I handed out a colorful page that talks about our mission, our goals, our objectives, and our outcomes. And I won't read the whole thing to you, but essentially we are a program within the public school, and in Floyd County, we are in the Charles City School District, and we provide education and support to families that have children that are not yet enrolled in kindergarten, so 0 to 5-year-olds. We do prenatal also. And it is a voluntary program that parents can attend. And we have 3 18-week classes that we offer throughout the school year. We have a morning class, we have an evening class, and then we have a teen parenting class at Cary Lane. So we offer 3 classes a week here in Charles City. Parents come to school with their young children. They spend the first half of the class interacting and doing activities together that are designed for early childhood. They're age-appropriate activities that an early childhood teacher sets out based on creative curriculum, which is a standardized curriculum that is used in early childhood. So they spend the first half of the class doing activities together. The second half of the class, the children continue doing activities with the early childhood teacher, and the parents go to the parent educator and talk about parenting. The parents decide the topics. We survey the parents, we have them fill out a survey with our curriculum, and we just ask them, what are you struggling with? What do you want to talk about? What do you need help with? And then we have 18 weeks where we talk about the things that are important to the parents. We have an evidence-based curriculum that we use. It's called the Nurturing Parenting Program. And so we use that program to also make sure we're giving information to the families that is helping them build and maintain a safe, supportive home environment for young children. And so that is our mission, to support and educate parents to provide safe and stable living conditions and to prevent child abuse. So that's a really quick overview of the Learning Connection. Have you heard of our program? Do you know about it?
I've heard of it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm saying no.
I have to look because we started in different places at different times. So we've been in Charles City since the 2007-2008 school year. So we've been around a long time. And throughout that time, we have received ICAP funds. We received it through the Floyd County Child Abuse Prevention Council. They were the part of our program for a long time. And then we started receiving it through the FMC community planning. And then we requested, because of that connection, that Floyd County be the fiscal agent for these funds. The school district is the fiscal agent overall for the Learning Connection, and we receive 3, sometimes 4 grants a year. This is one of those grants, but it is the major grant that we use here in Charles City to fund the program. Oh, before I get to that, I wanted to just ask, and I gave you some information. In August, the Surgeon General declared that parenting may be hazardous to your health. And I took heed to that because I work with the parents that are feeling that stress. And USA Today had a report on it. So I printed that off for you to see what it is that he's identifying as problematic, and parenting has changed. And I'm seeing that with the parents that I'm working with. I just had my grandkids for 4 days because my son-in-law had back surgery. I've never been happy to send my grandkids back to their parents before, but it's a lot. It is a lot to take care of these kids. And the Surgeon General did a study. I actually printed off the study, but I thought you maybe just want the little short version. And I highlighted some of the things that were really important about it. It's that parenting is having and causing more stress on parents than ever before. Parents aren't functioning. They're feeling that their mental health is at risk. The childcare costs have risen by over 26%. So there's financial problems that are causing some of the stress. The nervous, I'm shaking, it came from the page. There's more demands on time. Parents are feeling loneliness. They feel that it's more difficult parenting than it was in the past. And the stress is coming from lots of different places, but the social media is one thing that's causing more and more stress. And after the whole summary of the report, what can be done to help this? one of the things that was talked about was the need to invest in social structures to bring parents and caregivers together, such as community parks and programs. In Floyd County, we've been doing that since 2007. We've been bringing parents together because that's exactly what we do. We provide an opportunity where parents can come together, learn, feel supported, build relationships with each other so that, say, I can't pick up my kid at 3 o'clock. Can you get there and pick them up for me? They have someone they can call in times of an emergency. That relieves a lot of stress for parents. And we've been doing that here for a long time. So it was really interesting to see that this is now a Surgeon General warning, and it's something that this community has been dealing with and addressing.
Seems
for
like
many
we
years.
should have all parents should have a tattoo, like smokers warning.
Right?
label.
I just thought it was really interesting that this has come about. And the other thing that's interesting is that,
especially when you're doing changes around this time of year and with the Vanguard, because you want to make sure that everything's in balance in your system.
Come on, listen to everything at once, everyone.
Andy, could you mute your phone, please?
After posting a warning message.
okay, that home visitations are the way to reach families, but the study's showing that group activities have a really, really strong importance with families because they're building relationships. And that's what can help relieve a lot of parental stress. So it's showing that there's a real need and a place for learning connection in the community. So I just thought I would share that with you. As far as the ICAP grant itself, it is a state
Could
funded
you just say what ICAP is?
Iowa Child Abuse Prevention Programming. And it is a statewide grant that is available for funds to provide things such as the Learning Connection program in communities. We all know the school district doesn't have extra funds to keep this program going. I don't think the county probably has extra funds to keep this program going. So if we can tap into funds that are available through grants, that's always great to be able to bring the money into the community and not having to use money that's already here. And they've outlined how that needs to be applied for. It has to be done through the ECI areas. So our ECI area is Floyd, Mitchell, and Chickasaw County. And then it has to be done in collaboration with a community-based volunteer coalition. We have 2 of those that work together. Gloria just joined both of those. And one is the Families Making Connections. And then the other is the Floyd and Mitchell County Child Abuse Prevention Council. We work collaboratively, and we would be applying for these funds through the coalition, which is part of Floyd County as a fiscal agent. So that's why we're here today. I did kind of a little chart that kind of says, why am I here? Because the bidder of this application would be the coalition. The contractor would be Floyd County. The fiscal agent would be the auditor. The subcontractor would be Charles City Community School District. They would be basically contracting with the county to provide these services. And I'm the coordinator of the Learning Connection program. So that's kind of a little flow chart of how it comes down to it. We are requesting the opportunity to continue this relationship and apply for funds. And if it's awarded to us, we would work with the auditor for the monthly reports. We would work with Families Making Connections and Jill for managing and overseeing the program and the funding. And I would manage, hire, train all of the staff and provide the Learning Connection programs through the Charles City School District.
So you're in 3 counties, right?
Right now we are in 3 counties.
And you go to the counties? I mean, so you got one in Rockford that, you do? and-
So right now we have, we started in St. Ansgar. I was doing the program in other counties. And at that time, many years ago, Mitchell County was actually very high in the child abuse ratings. They had a lot of incidents of child abuse. And the public health nurse contacted me and she said, Sue, we need that program in Mitchell County. What do we have to do? I said, you just have to ask me that you tell me you need it. And I'll do what I can to bring it to you. And she said that St. Ansgar was very receptive to a program like this. And so I worked with Bill Carlson there. we got the program started. We started with ICAP fundings and ECI dollars, and then Osage won the program too. And I'm like, well, we're already in Mitchell County, you know, and they're like, what can you do, like 1 year here and 1 year there? I'm like, no, that's really, once you get things established, you don't want to go back and forth. But Charles City really wanted the program. So we came to Charles City, and then we found out that we could make the monies work, and we went to Osage also. And then at that time, the ECI director said, you're in 2 out of the 3 counties. You should go look at Chickasaw and see, you know, what can be done there. So then we moved into Chickasaw County also. So we are just in those 4 school districts right now. And that's what we have funding for.
Floyd County is fiscal agent for all those counties, right?
Just for the Floyd
Just
program.
for Floyd?
Yep. And it's just for the ICAP dollars. The school receives other grants, and the school's the fiscal agent for those dollars. It's just because it has to go through a coalition. It's just for the ICAP dollars that you would be the fiscal agent over.
I mean, and I would add to that with Jill being the DCAT and CPPC coordinator, through those funds, the
True.
county is fiscal for that as well.
The DCAT for the last decade has been funding our teen parenting program at Cary Lane. It's a wonderful program. This year we just have 1 parent, pregnant parent, and both parents come to our class. We're really excited about that. But we have had as many as 8 teen parents attending our classes, and DCAT has been funding that program. And we've used CPPC dollars to do our family night out events that we have throughout the 3-county area. And those are events where we invite different organizations to come and set up stands and booths. And then we invite a lot of parents to come and join us, and they go to all the different stands and collect information on services that are available to them. And it's also a kickoff to sign up for our weekly classes that we have. So it's a promotional event as well as an informational event.
But Floyd County being the fiscal agent, it does bring in a revenue source for us. On the ICAP grant that we have currently, it's $28,500 a year. We get 10% of that. Whatever is spent for the program, we get 10% in fiscal agent fees. So we bring in that one as it is now, close to $2,800, not quite that, but close to that. With this one, it's a larger grant opportunity, and we would apply for 10% of that fiscal agent on that as well. So that $30,000 to $40,000, we're kind of questionable on what she can apply for, but 10% of those funds would be revenue source to Floyd County. Same with being the fiscal for DCAT and CPPC, that's a revenue source for the county as well. And I did check with Morgan to see if Morgan, I kind of said that I've created some of the monster of work that the auditor has to do, because I wanted to draw revenues to the county. And so we've done a lot of these fiscal agent things to bring revenue in. And Morgan was willing to do this one. This ICAP one is fairly simple. Sue prepares the GACS reports and the supplemental documents. Jill looks it over. The auditor looks it over as well. So just so that you know the process, that happens, and then the GACS gets sent to the state. The state reimburses us. We keep our 10%, and since the fiscal for Learning Connections is Charles City Community School District, we cut a check to the Charles City School District for their share.
And the other counties contribute about what we do.
Oh, so so the ECI, you are the fiscal agent for the Early Childhood Iowa program as well, and the funding for those other programs comes through ECI. So
Yeah, right.
So
that as well.
that's, I believe, per check that's written out,
Yeah,
there's a stipend the
yeah.
county receives for each check that they write out for the programs in Mitchell and Chickasaw County.
Yeah, that's $40 a check that the county gets on Early Childhood Iowa. You see that in our revenues in Department 51.
Yeah. So you are connected to I kind of forgot about that. You are connected to the other counties as well.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason not to work with them. I mean,
No, I think this is a great opportunity
yeah, what do
to
you
do
think,
this.
Lloyd?
Yes, definitely. I think, where were you 40 years? Kids are-
Has there been any interest in, because I believe you do St. Joseph, New Hampton schools, Charles City School, St. Ansgar, Osage.
We went from New Hampton School District to St. Joe's, but we are now in the public library there. So we do have 2 classes a week in Chickasaw County also. I've not been actively seeking other school districts. It's a program that if a school wants it and desires it works much better because you have the administration support of the program. If I'm trying to sell it to a program or to a school, I don't want anyone to have to feel like to buy into it. If they see that they want it and they come to me and say, I need this, I will work really hard to find funding. Our funding is really stretched with ECI dollars, and now we're going into some major changes with ECI. I wouldn't actively be looking for bringing it to another school. Years ago, we did have, we called it kindergarten connection. Prior to the 4-year-old preschool being available, we went to all of the preschools basically in the 3-county area. Well, do we have Chickasaw? In the 2-county area, and offered a kindergarten connection class. It was 6 weeks of parents and children. The children would be entering kindergarten in the fall, and in the spring we did a 6-week class with the kindergarten teachers, and they got to get to know the teachers, the classroom. Each week the kindergarten teachers presented to the parents different curriculum areas that they could work on with their child over the summer to prepare them for kindergarten. It was a wonderful program, and we were in Rockford and Rice, all the little communities that doing that program. But as the 4-year-old preschool came about, our funding got less because that funding went that direction, and a lot of the children were already in the school buildings, and having those connections made it wasn't as important to have as it had once been.
So I just have a question. I should know the answer, but I don't think I do. With the child abuse side of this, does the court ever order this training for parents?
So we have had parents mandated to attend parenting classes. One of the great things about the program is we are public school. We're available for anyone. We're not an income-based program or a special needs program. We want to reach the most needy families, and we work hard to do that. But everyone is welcome, so there's no stigma attached to attending the program. It's public school. And recruitment is easy because parents come and have a good time, and then they go tell their friends, you gotta come to the Learning Connection classes, it's great fun. And so there's no stigma. In saying that, no one but myself may ever know if we have a mandated court-appointed family attending classes, because nobody needs to know that. And so we do have it happen, not often, but it has happened. We've also been asked to attend court and give information on the number of times a person has attended class, the topics that they have discussed while they were attending class, and those, we've been requested some of those types of things too. Otherwise, nobody needs to know who's attending there just because they want to, or who's attending because they need to, or for any other purpose.
Any program for grandparents?
In Chickasaw County, at the library, because we're a collaborative effort with the library, any family can come, and we do have a couple of grandparents that come and bring their kiddos. We just can't fund them or report them in our funding because they're not parents.
Sure.
But we do have our special events, and we have a lot of grandparents coming out to our special events and showing up for those events, like our family night out, national night out. They're for the whole family. Yeah. But we have talked about, we have talked about having like a grandparents fun night or different things like that. Our funding is all about educating parents, so it's having to find different avenues of funding to have those types of things.
Sure.
Yeah. Good.
And then the one thing I would ask as well is, Sue and Jill and I are working on this grant through the Iowa Grants database, and it does have an authorized signer for the board of supervisors. I was wondering if you would be receptive to me being that authorized signer. I don't think any of you want to probably go into that grant application and do any of that. So it would be access to the account, Sue, Jill, myself, and Morgan would be access to that. So if you're willing to approve this, I would just ask that you add that having me be the authorized signer. If you approve the grant today, I'd be the one to go in and do that part of it and complete the grant.
Yeah, no, I don't like more grants.
I appreciate Gloria's help because this is a very difficult grant, right? It's changed a lot from 5 years ago, and her technical knowledge of some of these things has really been beneficial in this process. Just trying to figure out which out of the Floyd County, the FMC committee, the council, the school district, and the learning connection program, whose information are they asking for, and which category is what we're struggling with right now.
And trying to figure out, can we apply for 30 or can we apply for 40,000?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, what was our funding for this?
$28,500 for 5 years, times 5.
Yeah.
5 years. This one again is 30 or 40,000. Got to figure that part out yet. But for 2 years plus a 1-year extension option. So a little bit more money, less years though.
Well, I'll consider a motion to approve this. Questions for Logan?
You know, do you want to
Yes.
make the motion rather than?
Yeah. You make a motion that you authorize Gloria as the
Signature agent.
signature agent. Just a piece of more again, to get that?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm
I'm sure you can doctor that up.
I got
There's
it.
a second by, did you
I'll
second?
second it, sure. Yep.
Okay, motion by Campbell, second by Carr, to approve the request of Sue Loken Learning Connect, with the Learning Connection to be the fiscal agent for Iowa Child Abuse Prevention Program, and Gloria being an agent, record of signature. Yeah. So, any comments from anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for the goodie bag.
I'm sure we will.
Next item on the agenda is to review our opioid treatment program at Prairie Ridge by Shay Jorgensen. Must be Shay.
That's me. Okay. Thanks for having me, taking the time. I'll try to be brief. So my name's Shay Jorgensen. I grew up actually in Grafton, so I'm a North Iowa native. I went to school and worked for my undergrad, and then I did med school and residency at the University of Iowa. So I'm a psychiatrist and I'm board certified in addiction medicine, just to give you a little background on me before I talk about the details that we're asking for. So I work at Prairie Ridge. I've been there about 4 years now. And you know, we have a Prairie Ridge clinic here in Charles City, but this is talking about the Prairie Ridge clinic, the main clinic in Mason City. So
Where do you meet in Charles City?
it's an office kind of off of Main. I personally don't have patients here. We have a nurse practitioner that comes here and
Sure.
sees patients.
Yeah, I didn't know where they had moved to. Years ago, they used to come here to the courthouse.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Before my time, I'm sure. Yeah, we have a therapist and a nurse practitioner that comes for a clinic here. The therapist stays here and the nurse practitioner comes for 1 day a week. So Prairie Ridge is now a certified community behavioral health clinic. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that terminology at all. So back in, I'm gonna give a little bit of history about why this is important. So, you know, if we go back to the 1900s, most mental health care was delivered in asylum settings, and that was for a couple of reasons. One, because we didn't have medications that could treat folks, and another because of the stigma with mental health. People were sort of removed and put in asylums if they had severe mental illness. Then around the 1960s, there was this movement to deinstitutionalization people from asylums and put community mental health centers all across the country. And so that was sort of the origination of community mental health centers happened in the 60s with this movement of deinstitutionalization. When that happened, there wasn't a lot of federal funding or a lot of federal regulation around that. So if you went to a community mental health center in Mason City versus one in Waterloo or one in Des Moines or Florida or wherever you were across the country, there was very different services in different community mental health centers. So Prairie Ridge is the community mental health center, community mental health center in Mason City. And then in 2014, the federal government said they wanted to start actually having more regulations around community mental health centers so that you would know what services are in one versus another. And they set out a pilot projects to see what sort of services were required or needed to have a community mental health center be a certified community behavioral health clinic. So in 2014, the federal government did that with just a few clinics. Basically, they had a panel of experts that had come up with 128 different criteria to say what a community mental health center had to have to become a certified community behavioral health clinic. So those things included things like providing care to veterans, even though it wasn't a VA, providing access to services 24/7, having crisis intervention services that could go out into the community if somebody was in crisis. I mean, I won't belabor the 128 criteria, but they came up with this list of criteria, and then what they did is they tracked it within a few clinics across the country to see if this improved outcomes. What they found is it saved a lot of money because people had preventative mental health care rather than being in the hospital, which is really expensive when people end up hospitalized. And they found that there was decreased incarceration, again, because people had treatment rather than they had crimes because of substance use or mental health. So save money, save people being in the carceral system, and improve outcomes. They looked at things like depression and anxiety and saw that those outcomes improved. So then the federal government went more widespread with that. We received a grant at Prairie Ridge in 2022 for $4 million. And that was for us to move along that continuum from a community mental health center to a certified community behavioral health clinic. So when we did that, we added several services, including our ACT team, our sort of community treatment team, where we go out and see people in the community, including in Charles City and this county. We serve 8 counties, but added additional services to meet all those criteria with those $5. And then the federal government has decided, rather than doing this piecemeally, like one clinic at a time across the country, the federal government asked states to apply. So for a state to ask the federal government for the funding so that the state could have a statewide plan. So the state of Iowa applied for that in 2023 and received a $1 million planning grant. And then with that $1 million planning grant, our state had to say how they would lay out the certified community behavioral health clinic plan across our state to include all of 99 counties would have a CCBHC, or certified community behavioral health clinic, to be able to have services for the patients in each county. That was a really competitive process. There was about 25 states that were looking for that federal funding. Iowa received it. We were one of the 10 states that received it in 2023. So right now, our state is in the process of rolling out this whole plan of certified community behavioral health clinics across the state. So in addition to the 128 criteria that the federal government says we have to have, our state is allowed to add additional criteria to that. So our state, with our governor, has said that we need to have more of a focus on opioid treatment, recognizing that there's an opioid crisis, and particularly some of our rural counties are actually some of the most hard-hit counties in terms of opioid overdose deaths. And so our governor added an additional regulation to the 128 we have to follow, to add an additional requirement that we have to have a clinic that provides methadone or opioid treatments. We currently do not have a methadone clinic at Prairie Ridge for a couple of reasons. There's a lot of DEA regulation around methadone clinics, which makes it a bit expensive to operate a clinic that has all of the regulations for methadone. And it's just a lot for us to take on. And so initially, as I'm our medical director, when the state initially announced this, my first thought was like, we're gonna have a hard time at Prairie Ridge doing this because we are in a pretty rural location, and to be able to financially cover this is gonna be challenging, and all of these DEA regulations are a lot. Like, for example, when we have a methadone clinic, we have to have 25 security cameras around the site. We have to have a safe that weighs 600 pounds to make it secure. We have to have staffing always double staffed. I mean, there's a whole host of criteria. To go to your podium here. In all of these regulations, I contacted some places across the state that already do methadone treatment to see if, rather than Prairie Ridge doing it, we could host a site, because what the governor's rule did not say that we have to provide it. It just said that it has to be provided within 60 miles of any patient that we serve within that region. So right now, the nearest methadone clinic to Mason City is Waterloo, and the reason that location is so important is that methadone is highly regulated, and so people have to come in every single day to the clinic, 6 days a week. They get one take-home dose on Sundays, but it's a liquid dose of medication they receive, and you have to watch them swallow that medication. because of regulations. And so I know we have some folks right now in Mason City, for example, that drive 74 miles one way, 6 days a week to Waterloo to get this dose of methadone. So I think the governor is saying that we need to do this is really important. And I think it's a really important needed treatment that we don't have access to, but it was going to be hard for us to do it. So anyways, I'd reached out to one of the companies in Des Moines that does this all over the states. And we had worked out a partnership with having them co-located within our clinic. So it'd be run by that company, but within Prairie Ridge to meet our regulatory requirements. We spent an entire year in that planning process. And at the end of the day, that company ended up doing a fiscal analysis when they partnered with a company that does analysis to see whether it's going to be profitable. And as most of these companies are for profit. And when they did the analysis, they found that they wouldn't make enough revenue to be located in rural North Iowa. And so after a year of planning, we sort of decided, okay, we're going to have to figure this out at Prairie Ridge. We're going to have to figure out how to do methadone ourselves. So now over the last 6 months, we've been learning this process. And so I'm going to back up and tell you a little bit about the reason that methadone is an important medication. So when people, whether you've been prescribed an opioid or you took it illicitly, opioid can create tolerance. So most of you have probably had an opioid prescribed at some point, like a pain medication like hydrocodone or oxycodone. Those medications can be really appropriate and really well used when you need them, for pain. What happens is people sometimes take them for a long time. And what happened for a long time is that doctors were actually asked to prescribe these medications very frequently. Back 30 years ago or so, they included pain as the 5th vital sign. So if you went to the doctor and your doctor asked you, are you having any pain? And you said yes, and you rated your pain, the doctor was obliged to prescribe you pain medication. That was something that was looked into, like, did you get your pain medication if you said you were having pain? So what happened is lots of people got pain meds over all the years. And there was a very flawed study that indicated that people couldn't be addicted to opioids, which obviously we know is not true. But all these folks got prescribed pain meds. And then later on, doctors were told you can't overprescribe pain meds. You have to stop these prescription medications. People can't be on them forever because it creates tolerance. So they stopped prescribing them. And then folks went out and started buying, pain meds from other folks, or they found heroin. These days it's fentanyl. And so that was sort of the whole lead up for the opioid crisis and the opioid settlement funds that happened with the pharmaceutical companies being sued. So as a result of that, we have a lot of folks addicted to opioids. And we have a few medications that can help with withdrawal. So when people take opioids, they initially usually take them because they feel good when they take them. Like they feel euphoric, they feel like they get a high from them. What happens if people take a medication like an opioid or heroin or fentanyl for a long time, they don't get a high from it, they get tolerant to it. And so then they start taking it only to feel okay. Because when people stop taking opioids, if they've been prescribed or if they've been taking them illicitly for a long time, is they have significant withdrawal. And the withdrawal symptoms when people are withdrawing from opioids are like vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, body aches, chills. It's like flu-like symptoms. And it lasts for weeks to months, especially when it's fentanyl. So it's really tough. And I've seen it a lot where folks come in that they want to stop. And we see this a lot, like example in pregnant moms, when moms find out they're pregnant, that they don't want to have their baby exposed to opioids. They want to stop before they have a baby. And folks just get sick of the cycle of addiction and not being able to do the things they want to do. So they try to get off these meds or heroin or fentanyl, illicit drugs, but it's really hard. I mean, I would have a hard time feeling flu-like for weeks to months and still going to work and caring for my kids and all the things you got to do. So we have a couple of medications to help people through those withdrawal symptoms. And those medications are buprenorphine, which we prescribe at Prairie Ridge, and methadone is the medication that we don't currently prescribe. So when buprenorphine binds to an opioid receptor, buprenorphine only activates the receptor about half the way. So buprenorphine is very effective in terms of helping people get off of opioids and prevent overdose. But for people who are taking fentanyl, buprenorphine is not enough because when it binds to the opioid receptor, it only activates it half the way. So for example, I have some folks right now, one in particular, who he's on the maximum dose of buprenorphine that I can prescribe. And he still has significant withdrawal symptoms because he was taking such high dose fentanyl IV for so long that buprenorphine is not enough to help him with his withdrawal symptoms. So even though he's on the max dose, he's coming back to my office, he's sweating, he's nauseous, he's sick, he's trying very hard not to relapse. And he actually had been stable on methadone when he lived in Waterloo for 5 years, but doesn't have access to methadone in Mason City. And so the purpose of methadone is a medication that can help people get off of opioids and onto something that's safer, prevents overdose. And that's really the key thing, is we're looking at getting people off of illicit opioids to prevent overdose and prevent death and help people get back into things like being able to parent their kids, being able to go to work, those sorts of things, like get them to be able to be functioning. That's the entire purpose of methadone. But with all of the regulations around methadone is some cost with the clinic startup. And so that's what we're asking for, is I've been going around to different counties within a 60-mile radius of where our clinic will be to see if we could use opioid settlement funds to help cover some of the startup costs. So the startup costs of, this doesn't include staffing, this is just the actual cost of the building and the materials for the clinic is around $155,000. And so then we've divided it up by looking at the percent of the total population in each county around us. And so for Floyd County, the percent of population of all the counties we would serve is 12% of the population. And so that equates out to, of that $155,000, to $19,631. And so that would be the ask that we're requesting from Floyd County. I don't know if I sent this in an email, but I'm not sure. You guys have it. So this is the right side column is the actual dollar amount, just so you're aware of what we've asked. So far, Cerro Gordo County Board of Supervisors were really quick to say, absolutely, we'll support you. So Cerro Gordo has supported with the $54,000 number that Cerro Gordo County has with their population. And then the other counties that have already supported us with this is Mitchell and Worth County. And then we're working on getting some conversation out to the remaining counties on that list. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of why we're having this clinic. I just wanted you to all have some background knowledge about kind of why this clinic is starting. So it's in part because we have to as a CCBHC, and in part because folks in our communities just don't have good access to this medication. And so really tough for someone who is trying to get sober and get off of opioids to drive, you know, I think from here, it's maybe around 50 miles when I Googled it, 50 miles from here to the clinic in Waterloo for your folks. Whereas I think it's about 30 miles to our clinic in Prairie Ridge. So still not an easy drive for people to go to every day, but easier than the 50 miles it would be to Waterloo. So that's sort of the purpose. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I talk fast and it's a lot of information.
How long does someone stay on the methadone treatments?
It's a great question. So it really depends on the person and it's an individual conversation we'd have. So some folks want to get off as fast as possible. So some people are only on it for like a couple of months or even less than that sometimes. Other folks can stay on it chronically. It can be a chronic medication people get maintained on. We know that whenever we stop people from methadone, there is an increased risk of relapse. And so we look at kind of multiple facets of their life when we talk about tapering off. So like, do they have stable housing? Do they have stable social supports? Like, do they have people that they can spend time with that are sober? Do they live in an area of the community that's not going to like constantly keep reintroducing them to illicit substances? All of those sorts of factors go in when we have this conversation about when we taper off. And when we go to taper, then we have these conversations of like, okay, are your cravings worse? Are things getting worse for you? And if they are, we can go back up or stable, you know, keep it a stable dose for a while. So it's like a process that's done individually with that person gradually over time. But there is safety data that shows people could be on it for decades if they needed to be. So for people who continue to have really difficult life situations, it might make sense for them to remain on a medication for a long period of time.
So Morgan, this $19,000, you're asking for $19,000.
Right, yep.
We're gonna have opioid funds available. Is this a qualifying?
I think this definitely is a qualifying option here. But are funds available? Not in our current budget, just like they aren't for the money with the hospital we just did last week. We only budgeted $15,000 to spend this year. So the board would have to do a budget amendment to be able to spend for the hospital when you just did and for this one.
I know
Fiscal year would be the interest to me is when you're looking
yeah,
at.
this is the same conversation with Mitchell County because they'd already kind of budgeted funds for the year. I know the timing of this wasn't in line with your timing. So I mean, in terms of Prairie Ridge, like we will pay for this regardless of, you know, so if it's easier for counties to do it in the next fiscal year, there's no rush from our end to say like we need this money in the next month or two. Like it's not like we don't have the funds to cover that. I just thought that it was an appropriate use of opioid dollars when we're looking at something like this to treat folks. But there would be no like rush to get that funding made available.
So we wouldn't have to amend our budget. We could wait till the fiscal year
Well, we have to amend our budget anyway for the hospital.
for the hospital.
Yeah.
But this one is way more clear cut.
Yes.
Equipment, so this one I wouldn't say there's any extensive research we need to do into the opioid settlements.
So if we amend the budget for the hospital, would it make sense to do it for this at the same time?
We could, because the money, we have enough money in the fund currently And then just for people that are here, maybe you don't know this, but with all these settlements that we've gotten from the federal lawsuits against the pharmaceuticals and manufacturers of opioids, we're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars that can only be used for opioid purposes. We can't use it to fund any department in the county or any other grant purposes or anything like that. It 100% of it has to go towards opioid
Treatments and services.
remedies.
Yeah.
And it's so specific that you can't even use those dollars to support like the local dare program. Like it has to go to opioids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I found. Talking to other small counties around us, they're all sort of like, we don't know what to do with this money. And for us, for this project, this was frankly not something that we would not have previously like, we're going to tackle this, but it fell on our shoulders, and so we're looking to
Yes,
do
Jay.
it.
I guess my question is on this. Why would they not let you set up some sort of a foundational fund so that you have perpetual funding in this? Because as soon as this money's gone, all this is gonna go away. Because you're not gonna have the funds to continue to keep paying for all of these things. So to me, would it make more sense to set it in a place where you could live off that money ongoing, long-term, instead of just spending the settlement money and then being done?
Yeah, so there's multiple settlements, and some of them pay out in 15 years. So we're gonna have money trickling in as long as those pharmaceuticals or manufacturers aren't going bankrupt, and then we lose our money.
I'm just saying that the problem's gonna pervade beyond, a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And we know that, and we know that we're getting all these settlement funds. I would just think that they would make each county set up their own
Yeah,
pot of money that just can perpetually pay for this.
it is a pot of money that
Ongoing.
is only for opioid funds. It's a
Right.
fund just for that. It earns interest on any of the balance in the account. It sits in there, but it's specific from orders by those court orders from those settlements, that it goes into a county fund for that purpose. So it is ongoing to the fact that some of them have criteria of when it has to be spent by. There's multiple, like I said, multiple settlements, and each one has a different caveat to it on how it can be used, how deep it has to be, and recording of how that money was used. And so a county fund like this is somewhat working like what you're saying.
Yeah, I just,
But
like I
it
said, when
doesn't
you
have
talk,
to
when she
be
talks about
anything.
going through setting up the building and setting up the staff and setting up this whole thing. Like I said, I would just want to make sure that the money doesn't run out, because if the money just runs
The
out
money
in
will
5
run
years.
out,
Well, it'll run out sometime.
Right,
because the settlements are what they are.
right. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that there's a way to, use like the YMCA, for example. They have a foundation that sets up.
Yeah.
That money never will run out. I mean, there's enough money
So the
that's sitting there.
The
that will
court orders
continually.
don't work that way, is why it's not that set up like
I
that.
think we're gonna have to be able to act on each individual one according to, right? I mean, it's complicated, and the
Yeah.
funds
But you have a
are
really good,
not all the same. So,
Yeah.
you have a really
I-
good point.
I understand your.
But it basically
Well,
works
yeah,
about
they're
the
kind
same.
of-
It's a lot of legwork on this front end to get all this set up and done. And then it's like I said, and by the time you get that done, then you're out of money again.
Well,
I would say for this
You
clinic
gotta go find it.
specifically, if we've done our math correctly, it'll take us if we have about 30 patients, because actually the seeing folks and giving them methadone is billable service. Most of them will probably have Medicaid. They could have private insurance, or we would treat people regardless of their ability to pay. But sustainability wise, we have a residential treatment service at Prairie Ridge that frankly is is our revenue generating service. And because this is a requirement of a CCBHC now, we will be required to keep this clinic operating. And so even if we can't financially meet the ongoing sustainability through just the specific opioid treatment program, we have other resources at Prairie Ridge that would offset that to make sure that we don't just open this and 5 years close it. Which I see as your, concern that we would do all this work and then have nothing.
Right.
So this is really these are startup costs. I think the long-term costs in terms of operational costs, ongoing sustaining of the program would be done through billing, so long as we self-medicate.
That kind of goes to the same with what we did last week with the hospital. We're just buying that initial equipment. They're gonna buy everything after that and those would be billable.
That's my only point, was I just want to make sure that you don't go through all the work just to like,
That's
we're
a
done.
good question, Jay.
So,
But it does kind of work that way to some degree, except for each settlement has its own criteria that you have to follow. But it does have its, like I say, its interest in that type of thing that has to stay with that. So my question is, what's this building look like? Or,
I can show you. I have a slide that has it on there. So we're required to have a separate entrance. That's part of Prairie Ridge. We just remodeled. We're not like building a new clinic. It's just a remodel.
Couldn't get the same building. You're not
Yep.
gonna build it.
Yeah, no, but it's the backside of our building. It was a therapy group room that we repurposed. So this is, it's clearly being remodeled. So you walk in an entrance. It's required to have a separate entrance to the building because it has to be open. Usually it's open really early hours, so like 6:30 in the morning to 10 a.m. because people come and dose and then go to work or, get on with their day. So you'd walk in, this is the entrance, and then this is like a dosing room. So if somebody comes up, there will be a glass wall here between where Kelsey is standing holding a pretend cup. So that's sort of the setup, is that they come in, there's like a glass wall here, they receive their dose of medication, they drink it, they have to rinse out the cup, drink out the watered cup, do a mouth check, and then they leave. So the actual appointments and things will still be in like our offices where we normally have appointments. This is just the actual clinic piece. And that's the part where there's a lot of requirements around the structure of this. Methadone clinics were started in the 60s in the prison system, actually. It was when people were withdrawing from opioids in the prison system, and the guards in the prison system had a really hard time because people were sick for months. And so they piloted this program of giving people methadone in the prison system, and they found it to be very successful. But when they set up the DEA regulations around it, they set it up based off of the prison system. So things like a daily dose and a glass wall all makes a lot of sense if you're in prison. When you go to like Mason City, like having people come in every single day to get this dose of medication is a lot harder than when, you're living in prison. The DEA has done little to change those guidelines. They've made some that we can do more take-home doses and things now than previously. But the reason that this is also strict is because it was set up off of, well, one, it is a controlled substance, so we have to be very cautious for diversion, but also because all of the research and regulations came from the prison setting, and we basically have to replicate that in the clinic.
You still have residents at Prairie Ridge too, or?
Yeah, like residential program. Yeah, 28-day residential program. Yep, so those folks would be able to access this medication if they needed it, if they came in. And I think there's only one other program in Iowa that allows for methadone. And so I think we'll likely see like an influx of people who need with this treatment to come to residential at Prairie Ridge.
it's interesting I've been flipping through your PowerPoint as you've been talking here today, and it's kind of interesting to just see how the whole evolution from mental health, behavioral health, and that this isn't necessarily, like you say, this is someone who was in the hospital, had a surgery or something, and was put on this drug, and it's kind of another component of it. It's not someone that did this to get a high necessarily. It was a treatment program, and it's just interesting to see this whole transit that the mental health stigma to it, and it's really not.
Yeah.
In most cases, or many cases anyway.
Any questions for Shay?
It's Jordan. What's her name again?
Jorgensen's my last name. Yeah, Jorgensen. Yep.
Jay knows.
Yep. Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to approve Shay's fund request of $19,631.84.
I would make a motion to, is it 84 cents or what's on here?
84 is fine.
Yeah, okay. I would make a motion to use opioid funds to the amount of $19,631.84 for the purpose of the infrastructure project at Prairie Ridge.
I'll say.
Motion by Carr, second by Campbell. Any other discussion? Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you. I'm trying to give an update too if you'd like in the future.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
The whole presentation is in your guys' packet, so if you want to review it. The whole presentation PowerPoint is in your
Yeah.
packet.
Yep.
If you want bigger slides, let me know and I can send you the PowerPoint.
That's good.
and disappointments. Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
So is Brandy doing the presentation on Text Me?
Nope. Jesse's actually the point on this, I'll let her
You
go.
think?
So, Brigham, are you on right now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so I was contacted by Brigham, he brought to, my.
Jesse, do you want to come up to the podium? So
Sure.
it picks it up better for the recording. Thanks.
I was contacted by him, by just a phone call, and he sent me his, proposal presentation of what TextMyGov is. So he's online and, he's here to kind of explain to you guys what, he did in a, Zoom meeting with, Tracy, Brandy, Amy, and Morgan and I. Collectively, what it is it's a program to send out text messages to the citizens of Floyd County for any notifications that any of our offices may have. So like in Amy's regards, it maybe would be boat renewals that she has every 3 years. She could send a text out and say boat renewals are due by April 30th. Brandy could do it for assessments. I could do it for delinquent tax notices or tax purposes or anything like that. Morgan could do it for elections. Adam can do it for the solid waste collection when it happens to be closed on a weekend. Or something like that,
So
so.
does this take place with the postage and all that? Or are we just doubling up here?
Not for elections.
No.
No, so actually I'll turn it over to Brigham and he can explain it to you guys.
Okay.
And then if you have any questions, you can ask him.
Appreciate that. Brief introduction. Jesse did a great job there. My name is Brigham from TextMyGov. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
We're turning you up a bit.
Okay. How's that sound?
That's better.
A lot better. And I can speak up if you need me to. And I want to make sure I'm conscious of everybody's time, so I'll make sure to keep this really brief for all your purposes. But like Jesse said, I did reach out to you guys there at the county. We work with a bit of a background on TextMyGov. We work with exclusively local government cities and counties across the U.S. In fact, we work with 1,000 cities and counties in our short time in business. Reason being is we're the first tool that offers what we do for local government. We're actually what's considered a sole source product, meaning there's no other company that does what we do for local government. One of the big things, Jesse nailed it on the head, that we primarily focus on, there's 4 main parts to our program, and each part of the system will benefit some departments more than others, to be fully transparent with you. One of the parts that seems to be most beneficial, and I can even pull up my screen here if I have that option. Let me see if that's available. I do not have sharing capabilities. If not, I can still fully explain everything completely. I believe you still have packets, but one of the biggest parts is there is notifications available to the departments. This is not to be confused with the county's emergency alert Iowa tool. This is not the same thing at all. Hundreds of counties we work with have their own emergency alerting tool such as that. That's a great tool. This is not here to replace that by any means. This is actually just a tool that's going to provide that service to the general offices. There's a very big reason why many counties do use the TextMyGov system for these general information. So one of the biggest things is we have this notification tools in place to allow for both internal updates as well as external. So Jesse gave some really great examples such as property taxes, assessments, election notifications. There's one really big reason why this has been so successful for counties is we do something called database importing. So typically, with other programs, it takes years and years to build up a database of opt-ins and trying to market to the citizens to sign up. Whereas with what we do, we still follow these opt-in, opt-out regulations, but we do an import where we at TextMyGov will get a database of the county's residents' names, numbers, addresses, and we can take any other database the county has, such as like maybe a registered voter database with names, numbers, and addresses. We can import this data. And we push out a one-time welcome message to the public just stating, hey, this is Floyd County's general updates. You'll be notified for county events. You'll be sent public surveys. You'll be updated on elections, taxes, you can public health. You can push out all this information. And when we do this, they can be automatically opted in. through that method. So when we import them, they're signed up, and those citizens that do not want to have it, they can just text stop to opt out. So there's the option for instant access to the public. So you can push out information for all general offices. So that's one big part of the program is the county will have instant access to the public. Our databases, we find anywhere from 40 to upwards of 60, 70, 80% of homes can be signed up day one going live with the tool. So that's one big piece. There's 3 others. And again, these 3 other parts may benefit some offices more than others. One of the big ones was there is the ability for public surveys to be sent. So TextMyGov has the ability to allow the county to create public surveys or create a survey through the program. And because we have these homes signed up and citizens receiving these, you can push out surveys to the public, whether it's countywide or maybe by districts. You want to send out a survey, whether it's citizen satisfaction to grant programs and you need public opinion, you can send out public surveys. The system does also answer questions for all offices. So to clarify, we've discussed pushing out information. It can also take in information where a citizen can maybe submit an issue to, say, engineer's office if there is road damage or road issues, sign damage. They can text that in. The system's completely automated. So once it recognizes what information is trying to be submitted to the county, it's going to ask some questions. It's going to send an email to the correct office that that information needs to be sent to. And then it does answer questions. So it does all 4 of those where the county and its general offices can push out information. It'll handle surveys and the county conducts surveys for whatever their needs are. It'll handle reports and it can answer questions 24/7. So all 4 of these are combined that make up TextMyGov. One final piece is, where we get most of our questions is how do we get citizens to know about it? Obviously, the number one thing is that database importing where we can get you guys instant access to those homes day one where they're signed up, and those that don't want it don't have to have it, right? But everyone has a cell phone today, right? I mean, everybody. And so it targets that method. It gets you guys that instant access. You can push out information. Now, on the flip side, for citizens to text the county and the system automates all that because it's not a staff member getting these, the system's going to take care of their questions to cut down calls. It'll work after hours. We know that like a good example is auditor's office during election time. It gets busy. And so citizens usually have the same questions all day long. And it just answers those. And even after hours, if they have those same questions, it'll just answer those. If it were to be a report after hours, it'll handle that for engineers and we'll email the office with all the information they need, even possibly including pictures if they wanted to. So it does all 4. There is one piece to this. Citizens, if they weren't a part of that database, they can still sign up. They're not forced to, it's not all or nothing. So if they were a part of that database, awesome. If not, we still create marketing materials. Like Mason City next to you guys uses our program. If you look at their website, our widget appears on their homepage. We'd put a widget up on your guys' homepage where they can just put their number in. Your system sends them a text like, how can we help you, automating the whole process, or they can sign up through that. City of Waverly, not too far, also uses it. Cherokee County right next to you guys uses it too. So we work all across the state and hundreds of counties across the US. There's a couple in-depth tools that it does provide. Like, for example, I know I mentioned the notifications already, but there's a part in there that's very, very useful for both auditor's office and the engineer's office, where because we'll have in that database names, numbers, and addresses, if the county needed to notify maybe a specific voting precinct or an area for a road issue, you can simply highlight the voting area, say, hey, your voting location's been updated because of this redistricting or this the power outages out here, or there's a road closure over here, right? So they would give certain tools to certain offices. Some offices will have other resources, but I've kind of bulldozed you guys. So I'm gonna take a step back here and just kind of see, was there any questions from that really broad summary or overview? I just want to make sure everyone feels like they're getting most of their time is all.
So you're talking about this being automated and it's going to come in and sort out and have an answer for this. I mean, a cookie cutter, I find a lot of times, maybe talking to citizens in the county, that no one question is the same. Mm-hmm. It's different. And I just wondered, somebody's got to respond to some of these. And I'm wondering, does this save any time at all?
I'd like
Oh,
to.
Randy, okay.
So this is actually a question that I brought to his attention myself in our presentation. So a couple points there. The premise of like the main focus of the use of this would be to get information out to the public. But my question to him is, okay, so what happens if somebody replies? Because we know with not everybody being on the same tech level, like that could definitely happen, where somebody would send us a reply. And that's where he kind of talked about, and we went through this, that AI basically uses keywords to pick up those keywords and then sort out possible answers. And then that's something that we work with them to provide what we want the answer to be and the direction we want to take them in. Ultimately, where they can provide information to us or we can provide more generic information to us, but at the end culminating with like, give us your contact information. So if this happened on a Saturday or Sunday, I get an email. So I know Monday morning I need to call John Smith and answer his questions. Or ultimately like directing them like, this is not something, AI cannot answer every question for them. So ultimately it directs them back to the office. The best example I would give from my office's standpoint to how this service would be so beneficial is a couple of cycles ago in the tax cycle, in May, the governor signed new legislation into the law that made that Homestead 65 exemption a reality. And so the sign up deadline is July 1st. So while we did take in 1,600 applications in about 4 weeks, we had people putting up flyers in the senior center. The article was written on the front page of the press. We put everything out on all of our social media. All the offices were sharing it. We still had constant information from people in the months following. Why didn't I know anything about this? So we feel like this way, everyone has a cell phone now. At least every household has a cell phone. That this is something we could push out. Like, are you over 65 and own a home in Floyd County? Contact the assessor's office. We have an exemption for you. And so that's just a more modern way to get information out to people. Really is our focus. And I think collectively, offices, we do feel like we get a lot of information back. Well, why didn't I know this? How can I find this out better? Our website, while it provides a lot of information, because of the amount of information it provides, it gets a little cumbersome. We've even you guys have talked about that here about finding agendas. It's just a better way to get information right to the people and right into their hand, literally. So that's my answer to that.
I'm kind of stuck a little bit on how do you get all of these numbers then?
Great question. So through one method, and this is a very common method we do with counties, is TextMyGov. We work with a third party, but we get the data from the U.S. Postal Service, names, numbers, addresses. It won't be of every household, which is why we'll pair it with maybe another database the county has, such as, like I mentioned, the registered voter database. Some tend to have not just names, but also numbers and addresses. So we could take that data, the data we're able to procure, combine the two. So that's where it comes from. U.S. Postal Service. It wouldn't be like a local post office we grab that from. There's just a database that we would procure that from.
Well, I asked this just because we have a Floyd County alert system on our website. And I believe this might have even been a topic of conversation at the 911 meeting the other day or somewhere. Keith Starr mentioned it to me that it's when we converted from one system to another system, we put, we had stuff in the newspaper and stuff on our website and stuff on, I believe the radio even, on reminding people that they can go out and they can get these alerts. And I think the number is something like 500 and some, or maybe 800, I don't remember, is all that is that the public just isn't going out there to sign up for it. And so I'm just wondering how successful it is to get the right people.
And I'm very glad you brought that up, because we actually have numbers on that. So what we found is, and we've done this for hundreds of counties, where it's not that citizens are opposed to getting these notifications. It's just, it's been enormously difficult for counties to get citizens to sign up, because one, you have to reach them through an avenue where they're using, like you said, radio as an example, you were trying to push out, sign up for our notifications. And so someone has to be listening at the exact right time. And the struggle is, one, getting the word out to the public that the tool exists. And then the second challenge is hoping that they sign up. Those are the two common challenges that many counties face, which is why so many also use TextMyGov, is because when we do this database importing, we import it, those thousands of homes are automatically signed up day one upon import. But before the county is allowed to send out its regular messages, there is a requirement to send out a one-time welcome message. Basically just stating, hey, this is Floyd County's general updates tool. You'll be notified of X, Y, and Z. If you don't want these, you may text stop to opt out. Now, to give you the numbers, because like I said, I can say for sure you get thousands signed up day one with certainty. So when we get those thousands signed up, they'll get this welcome message. Now, those that don't want it, they can just text stop. But to give you some idea as to what the success would look like is historically only around 2 to 7% of the entire database ends up opting out. So historically, counties have been keeping well over 90% of their homes signed up from that entire database because they're thrilled. It's almost like this. We live in this world of instant gratification now where people want things done for them. Why didn't you do this? Why? And so with this, when we do this import, it's been enormously successful to get that outreach day one. Those that don't want it, of course, don't have to have it, but the success has been astronomical when comparing it to struggles they've had with other programs in the past. This is day one access with very pleased numbers, and those that don't want it, typically around 5% of the population historically don't want these, and so they opt out, and the county's good from there. So great question. Great question.
Brigham, I've got a question, Brigham.
Yeah.
The judicial year would be $8,200 and annually after that, $6,500 annually, correct?
Let me double check. So I have the proposal right here. Yeah. So I included in this package, just like everything, because we can do a reduced cost if the county only wanted certain parts of the program. So I thought we'd just start high and work our way down depending on the needs of the county. So we had you guys at a one-time setup fee of $1,600 or sorry, $1,650. That would be for us to set up the entire program for all the departments, because we have to set it up to have the notifications, get the map tool set up for engineer's office and auditor's office. We'll build it out to handle reports and answer questions for all the offices. So that setup fee, correct, is one time. Every year going forward will just be the $6,550. That being said, you'll notice there might be some line items on this proposal. Like one is there's the enhanced media package. Not every county, to be fully transparent with you, not every county uses that part. That what that would allow is we'd put like multiple widgets on your website. We create videos and graphics to help market the program. But to be fully transparent, many have just used that database importing because everyone, like we discussed, has a cell phone, and the marketing and using the tool itself to get the word out has been far more sufficient. So if the county's like, you know what, let's just do the database importing and not do the enhanced media package, hey, we'll knock $750 off the annual fee. There is one other line item on there as well, where it's the TextMyGov public surveys, which would allow you board members and the county departments to push out public surveys, whether it's countywide or to your districts. And it could be any surveys the county would like, from citizen satisfaction to maybe you guys are conducting certain projects and you want to get feedback from the public. You'd be able to build the survey, send it out, and you'll be able to review the results in real time. It'll have the graph, charts, and data of those thousands of responses you guys would get in those surveys. And if the county doesn't feel that's a need, we'd take that off too. So your lowest cost would be $5,300 on an annual fee if you didn't want those two add-ons. But if you wanted everything, it would be the $6,550. But we leave that up to the discretion.
My next question would be for the three ladies that are here, Brandy and Jesse and Amy. Is this going to save us $6,500 a year in any of your budgets?
No, I don't think that's the point. I think that.
That's my question though.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a source of efficiency for the government, for the county?
It is efficient because it's efficiently giving out information that we get negative input from county people all the time, that we're just not getting good information out to them. We're not as transparent and public facing as I think we all hope to be every day. We hope to increase that every day. And I think this is just a step in that direction where we can, when I think about the Homestead 65, that exemption saves $6,500 a year on their taxable value. So 6,500 times their levy rate, that's $700 of taxes that people are paying. And so that's very near and dear to them as a taxpayer, of how we can get that information out so they can save that money. And so again, just as a positive public relation to the county is really what we're looking at. This isn't about saving money. It's about being more transparent and better public servants.
So this would be divided, the cost between them, I mean, their departments, is that how we would fund this thing?
And probably, it's just a general fund. I would think it's just a general fund expense. I don't know, Brandy, you've been taking on costs into your different fund.
Well, yeah, and
But
I
I don't
certainly would
know.
take on a portion. He didn't get to this, but when he presented us, the presentation lasted about 45 minutes. So we really grilled him on some information, but there's unlimited users. So, or I don't know if users is the word you
That's
use.
correct. Mhm.
But anyway, so like every single department of the county could use this, and you could have multiple people using it. Obviously, we want to be responsible with how much information we're pushing out, right? You get too much out there and it just gets to be cumbersome. But this isn't something just like our 4 or 5 offices could share it, like every single
Conservation,
department.
public health,
Conservation, public health.
all of them
Absolutely.
can also be a part of that.
Mhm.
I feel like conservation is also just like engineering is a really great tool that if if someone needed one more way to reach out and say something's broken or something's not working or I noticed this, like it is another way to be able to reach out to those. Or if something happens at one of those campgrounds, it's flooded or whatever, that can be pushed out to that way as well.
And so there's 2 ways of doing this. We could have like one basic number and one basic account and everything is sent out for. But like he presented in our presentation, we could divide that up by department. So if you want the assessor and the auditor's updates, sign into these numbers. If you want, you know, so the public can choose what updates from what offices they want. For example, the collection site information. You know, people that live inside Charles City, that information isn't of any use to them because they don't use that collection site. So, you know, we can tailor it more where we're sending out information just to the people that want that information, but we could still do mass things to everybody on the list as well.
But you're saying you can tailor it, is that because of additional, split those departments out?
No, it
I mean, is
doesn't.
that part of the 6,500?
Yes.
Or if you just did, and that makes sense to not have it for everyone, but I'm just gonna say, I think this seems like a good product. However, I think our departments have lacked using our website other than conservation. Conservation and auditor are the only ones that have used tools on that website like they should be used. And so and same with social media. And I know those are just 2 ways of getting things out, but those are things we're already paying for or they're free service and they've been underutilized by departments. I'm not convinced that if we aren't implementing those sources now, why would this be a successful route? And we're paying $6,500 or whatever the number is for it when we underutilize what we have already.
I would say my website, the assessor's website, you can look and see that links from the county website to my website is the most clicked link next to the jail. And so obviously I'm putting information on my website. Yep, so I'm putting information on my website. And then I know that personally, Jesse and I do, when we do Facebook posts, we tag every community chat group, every city hall, we tag everything in there we can get. So like it's showing up on all the pages we can. Like I said, I had conversations with the Charles City Press about the Homestead 65. Like, can you write an article about this? Can we talk about this and get this information out there? And we had so many negative interactions with citizens about why didn't you do better? Why didn't you do more? And so this is really just from trying to be better. Again, we have a lot of information that we try to get out, and the more educated the public is about how things work, the more trusting of their government that they are. And I really just think that this is just one more opportunity to do our due diligence.
It's putting it directly into their hands on their cell phone.
So I would agree, Gloria, that there's definitely ways that the website could be used more by offices. Absolutely. I just don't think that website is a popular place for people to go. I just don't think that the population is using it.
And I may answer that question in more light because this has been a common question, right? Because you have these avenues, right? And they're valuable. There's no denying that social media is an advocate, is a truth resource tool for counties. One of the struggles many counties have had, and similar to like how when you guys were trying to push out for your Alert Iowa tool, you guys were using those multiple channels, but the success, it comes down to if people are using these channels and if they're actually reaching them, because these are competitive spaces. Like social media, you push it out on there, okay, maybe some people will see that. And so with Text My Gov, the reason it's been so resourceful is because it's now in the hands of the citizens. It's no longer this marketing game of I'm trying to get in front of the citizen or I'm trying to get in front of their phone. It's everyone's got a cell phone nowadays, and where you're able to target that and send it directly to the citizen, it has been where a lot of counties have found value. Now, each county their own. You guys know your citizens far better than I do, of course, but to kind of explain why, many counties I work with use several channels, but the main method of communication today is texting. It's cell phone connection, and the county would have access to just reach the citizens immediately versus a competitive battle of who got what. Maybe they got it, we are not sure. So that's the big thing to answer your question. Sorry if I interrupted somebody there. I feel like I may have.
If we agree to do this, it's a 3-year term initially, right?
Mhm.
And then year by year after that.
Correct. Mhm.
So it's not a big dollar item for our budget, I don't think, but I think we're not gonna take any action on it today. We're gonna talk
course.
about it some more. And I appreciate your presentation, Brigham.
Mhm. Yeah.
We've got some material, and now that we can discuss this at another time, and
Mhm.
we're not gonna act on it today.
I agree. I need to think about this just a little bit. It's hard to get this all in and make a decision right now. I would think we should table this.
Well, it's just a presentation.
No action.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Brigham,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Brandy, and Jesse. Do you have any more comments?
I am gonna say, in the packet where it says demo recording, Zoom recording link, did any of you watch the conversation and the presentation Brigham did with all of us? And the questions that we had from him, and that would also explain his, the unlimited messages, and we had all kinds of questions today that, like Brandy said, it was over 45 minutes. That presentation that he gave to us is in that packet and that Zoom link. So if you go and watch that, you might have more answers to your questions than just what we're getting today.
I will say though, that I think this is a great way to get information out. However, you're still gonna have those people that are gonna say you didn't do enough. That's always gonna happen. And House File 718, I've said it many times, how it scares the bejeebies out of me. We're going through our budget process now, and I know it's only $6,500, but it's $6,500 commitment for a few years and beyond. And I got to think about it as well.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that it's the right tool either.
Thanks, Brigham, for your presentation, and
Yeah.
thanks, Jesse, Brandy, and Amy.
Thanks, Brigham.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Jay's been very patient. Item number 8, review and action with the pickleball court fund request by Jay Young.
Well, so, this is, and I appreciate it. I expected to have to be patient because I came in late to the game here, last week, so that was fine. So I'm working with a group of people. It's a project that we started working on here, it's probably been about a year ago. And we've been trying to raise funds to do some city improvements within the city of Floyd's park. This is the Floyd Lions Park. And so we looked at a couple of different things, as far as the phase 1 of the project. The main part of the project is creating 2 pickleball courts within the city park. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the United States for 4 years in a row now. I personally don't even play the game, but I am interested in improving quality of life here for our residents and for people of Floyd and Charles City and all over. And right now I know that like pickleball courts here in Charles City, you usually have to wait to get on them. There's usually a backlog of people waiting to get on to use these courts. This is an opportunity that we've went out now and we've raised almost $40,000 privately to put towards this. And in fact, I didn't even think about contacting you guys until I applied for an Iowa Community and Tourism grant. And one of the questions on that grant is what portion of this project is the city and the county funding in order to be eligible for this project? So I reached out to Gloria and I said, tell me a little bit more about this, because again, I'm learning, I'm new at this. And I also reached out to the state of Iowa on this and said, what is a typical situation like this for counties to do? And she said, well, you have supported 2 community and tourism grants in Floyd County. or three. She just told me about two. One of them was you guys gave $25,000 to the walking bridge, pedestrian bridge in North Springs. You also gave another, I don't know what the dollar amount was for the splash pad or swimming pool in North Springs. Was the two that she mentioned.
And the Rockford Light Project and the Whitewater amphitheater, I think, area there, or some part of the Whitewater.
Okay, no, that was part of through the community tours.
Yep.
So what we're currently requesting is, like I said, we raised $40,000. We need for lights and everything all included. I think I included it in your email there. I believe I kind of broke down what we've gotten for donations. We're looking up to $15,000 in our request. Now this also could be built into next year's budget as well. So we talked a little bit about that before, about making amendments and having to do that. The way that we're kind of talking to different city governments, the city of Floyd felt the same way as far as anything that they'd like to do. They'd like to start after July 1, 2, so that way then they don't have to go through and amend their budget for this year. And so we're, after July 1st is fine. But I need to find out if the county has any interest or level of commitment towards this project so I can finish the grant and submit that to them to let them know that, hey, these are the dollar amounts that the city and the county are willing to contribute to this project, if they're willing to contribute at all.
Are these courts by the swimming pool then, is that where they will be, Jay?
They'll be in Floyd, in the city of Floyd.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
in the city of Floyd, right next to, if you're on Highway 218 going north, right kind of across from Farm Chem, kind of kitty corner from Farm Chem, there's a basketball courts, there's a shelter house there. There's tennis courts there.
Is that a city park or is the Floyd Lions Park?
It's the city park. The city actually is the one, the city is the one that maintains it, takes care of it. The Lions have given money to it in the past, but it is the city's property.
Okay.
So that's the other thing too. We don't have to procure property and go through that process of, who owns it. The city owns it. So
you've got,
and actually that is, as of the other day when I sent that, I actually picked up another $500 yesterday from Fuel Express and Rick Lensing.
so where are you at for total now of donations?
We would be at another 500 to whatever's on that page, and I'm still waiting for, it tells you in there who I'm still waiting on hearing back from. I know Zoetis is supposed to get back to me. I got to finalize Farm Chem. When I originally set out on this journey to help do this, I had no intention of asking for any funds from any public entity. I wanted to raise it all privately was my deal. But as I've dug into these grants and found out, as you go through the state of Iowa grants, they require county and city funding as a part of this project, or you will not get any of that. Well, that makes it difficult to finalize things if, because I figured we would find some grant funding. We also applied to AARP. It was another grant fund that we submitted to.
Have you heard anything from them?
I've not heard back from them yet, but they said that would probably be May before we heard, because the applications for AARP are due March 5th.
Pickleball is a huge target for that.
Right. Right now, actually, one of our committee members was telling us about a 60-court, $25 million project that they're building down in Arizona right now in the retirement community down there. It's played by all ages of people, and especially retirees. It's a huge growing sport. And then, like at the YMCA, I know they got a league. Mason City's got a league now. It is a situation that could actually bring people to town to play, because availability of courts is tough to find.
Are they playing indoors now? Pickleball?
They're playing at the YMCA right now.
Outside, not now.
But yes, these will be outside courts.
I know.
Yep.
But in town here, they play outside at
They do
Sportsman's
that,
Park.
I think they do that in North Springs too in the winter time. Don't they play in the old gym in North Springs, maybe some pickleball?
And that was brought up too about, trying to fit the courts at Floyd at the community center so that it could be played inside as well. Somebody brought that up when we were talking about those things. And so those are all possibilities for us, but right now we're targeted on the outdoor part.
Sure.
I think the city, when I was talking to, I think it was David Sargent, who does the city maintenance there, he said it's been 20 plus years since we've really spent any effort and time and money in that park. So I said, well, now we're going to try to do something here that's going to help freshen it up and, hopefully draw more users to it. Good thing is that park does have a lot of usage. I do see a lot of people in that park and I drive by that all the time.
You asking for 15,000, Jay?
Yep, up to 15,000, correct.
And the is only doing 5,000?
Well, that's their in-kind as of right now. We're working through their budget for next year and trying to figure out what their dollar amount would be. We're also, the Floyd Lions also is looking at what contribution they can have, and they're gonna have any ongoing maintenance costs with that as well. So lighting, power, all that power costs, any of those expenses that are ongoing, they will be covering that.
So if you are successful with your tourism grant of 40,000 and your ARPA grant of 25,000,
If
and
we are,
you've got cash donations of 37,900, what are you gonna do with the extra
we,
30,000?
we're going to repair the existing basketball courts or the existing tennis courts and replace the basketball hoops there on those. I mean, we have more projects to go, but our biggest focus was to get the phase 1 funds done first. But if we end up with more funds, we're just gonna continue more improvements within the park.
Well, this would be on this year's budget. For 20, what we're looking at 26, right?
Yeah.
And you could do it whichever way is easier for you. If you want to do it and amend it, if you want to do it after the fact, it's okay with me. I don't care. We can make it work however it works best.
Are you looking for a dollar amount for financial support now, or just a commitment for your application right now? Just saying, we will contribute financially.
I would need, they're asking for a dollar amount.
They're asking for a dollar.
Yes,
amount.
in that request.
Well, I look at 15,000 and I think, man, where's that coming from, And like I said, their tourism grants and all that, we're like, county would probably do something with pickleball. To what extent? I'm not comfortable with 15,000. Okay, and I understand it'll go for fixing other things up. I like to have something a little more concrete what we're getting for.
I'm with you there too, Boyd, and I'm thinking the same thing. And I'm thinking if at this point, City of Floyd is only contributing 5,000 in kind, I don't think I'd go more than 5,000 for.
Well, that's the dollar amount I was looking at right now. Yeah, but things are, and I wish them luck for all the rest of the grants.
Well, like I said, I won't get the community and tourism grant if I don't have any funds committed from the county or the city. I can tell you that right now, that number is off the table, so.
I understand. Does it have to be 15,000 from us, so for you to get the grant?
No, up to, and that's what up to 15,000, like I said, and initially starting out, like I said, I hadn't even considered coming to ask you.
Yeah.
So the grant is what led me down that path.
Yeah.
To ask the question.
And I will say, 20 years here with the county, the Board of Supervisors we've contributed to Rudd Historical Society, not through tourism or anything like that, but we've, and I'm trying to think, it seems like we did something with Marble Rock, but I can't think right now, but I can't think of anything that we've done for the city of Floyd. Nothing's coming to mind in my 20 years. And so I think just because we have supported North Springs and Rockford and Rudd, and I like the idea of supporting something, and if the 5,000 is sufficient, I could get behind 5,000.
How much?
5,000.
Yeah.
On a $78,000 project,
Right.
phase 1 project.
Right.
And, maybe that letter because I'm guessing you're gonna need a letter from us saying
Yes.
what we're contributing.
I would.
And, that we would do 5,000, and pending future phases of projects, we would consider other contributions.
Other contributions.
And so for example, one of the things too, one of the unknowns right now is just, again, another donation that's came in is the Kroll donation. So I have to submit paperwork to them for them then to kick back and tell me what kind of a discount on concrete they'd be willing to give me. So I don't know what that number even looks like yet.
So you might have an in-kind there. as
Yeah,
well.
potentially. And then, yeah, so like I said, I mean, there's a big difference, like, the cost of a yard of concrete today at $1 or at $135 a yard. And if it's something they say we're gonna do it for you at cost, well, that's like about $70 a yard. So that's a big difference in what we're talking about dollars and cents here. So I don't even know, I'm trying to narrow that down. And then as far as, the labor to install it kind of thing. Yeah, and I've got some potential donors. Like I said, I would be very thankful for $5,000. I mean,
That will help you get the grant.
that will help me get in the door for the grant and going. And like I said, and hopefully, like I said, if we land that grant, then that could be a big game changer for us, because that could be a lot of money potentially that we don't, we're not really realizing right now. But what I do know is that we will not get it if we get zero support, because she made that very clear to me when I called her.
And I'll make the motion that we give Floyd, city of Floyd or whatever.
Yeah, be the city of Floyd.
Yeah,
Yep.
$5,000 and with,
For the pickleball.
for the pickleball court and, anything, and we'll be open for looking in the future or something. But
And that's,
to get this grant going, I understand, I'm on a foundation board, yeah,
well, I think the other thing too is that I want to demonstrate, we have gone out and found a fair amount of private funds,
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
and we are still working on that, because the last thing, like I told the city of Floyd too, the last thing I wanted to do when we started on this project, I didn't want to make this another budgetary burden for anyone, because I know how tight budgets are. And I know that we're all in a situation, like I said, where things are difficult and tight. So, but in order to, be eligible, this is just the nature of the beast. So,
yeah.
We have a motion by Campbell,
Second.
second by Carr, for giving $5,000 to the pickleball court fund, requested by Jay Young, amount of $5,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Motion passed.
thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate it. And then I'll get a letter figured out from you guys, and then I at least got a number I can put into that grant.
Letters, we could
Yeah,
probably pull
perfect.
something together.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
When's your date?
It's, so the state, what I'm told is those are revolving, so it's basically anytime I just basically get it submitted, they review it, but we already passed the first kind of hurdle. So you send in kind of a introduction letter, kind of we want to apply, and then they review it, and then if they like the way it looks, then they'll message you back and say, okay, go ahead, here's the full application, fill it out. So we've gotten that back to fill out the full application now at this point. So, yep, so now it's just a matter of getting that finalized and put together and submitted, and then hopefully we hear from that soon. And then, like I said, the AARP grant, that went in, I sent that in last week. And so but they're taking them up to March 5th. They said mid-May, they'll let people know, and then they said they will be awarded. Yeah, probably like the actual award will come in June. So-
There should be some success with that. I don't know about the 25,000 total, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping, it said that the normal award typically is around 12,000 on average. But they said that also doesn't mean that they can't fund it at a higher level. And then they also asked permission to send this to other people that AARP is connected with or affiliated with if they like the project. And so there's a potential for other grant funding opportunities there. Again, like I said, I mean, I don't have those in hand yet, so I can't say that I have them, but we're trying.
Pickleball Association.
Yeah, there is a USA Pickleball Association. Yep, that we've talked to those folks too. So we're working every angle we can here. So,
Okay.
all right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Item number 10, review action regarding communications tower project expenses for the Rockford site with consideration to be paid with bond proceeds. We talked last time Travis was here, and Jason Webster stopped in earlier. He couldn't make it. But we need to approve the sign brackets for $18.99 and $59.80 for signs for that property.
It's my understanding that these are the remaining costs to finish that outside
Okay,
portion.
well-
They just didn't come in at the same time as the other three that you approved.
I make a motion that we approve the sign bracket, the property of Floyd County signs for their appropriate amounts.
And to use the bond proceeds.
And using
funds
the
for
bond
tower
proceeds
project.
for this.
I would second that.
Motion by Campbell, second by Carr to approve the tower project expenses of sign brackets and Floyd County sign for the tower west of Rockford. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Motion passed. Okay. Engineering update.
Thanks
Make
for your
it short,
patience.
I got a meeting, I
I
got.
tell you what, I'm gonna,
Here when we go up the podium.
well, I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. I've got to use the restroom.
All right, not a problem.
Boy, if you need to leave.
Well, was it review or are there any voting actions that we have to?
The
Just
site plan.
approve.
Go ahead.
If you have to go, that we can figure it out. Yeah.
You guys can handle this without me? Why we go to a two-man board?
Only the rest of
Don't put that in, Bob.
We saw you writing, it's okay.
Here, I think these are yours.
Yeah, oh, yes,
I'm sorry that I have other commitments. The agenda a year ago.
Not a problem, it happens.
And I'm sorry, and this is your first go around.
I understand.
Yeah.
I
But
understand.
I'm sure we'll be talking a lot.
Oh, I hope to, yes.
Yeah. Apologies again.
You're gonna miss the fun budget talk.
Oh,
Bad.
yeah, I know. Meetings. Okay, everybody, thank you.
Bye, see ya.
See you, boy. Or another commitment.
Just excuse, yeah. Then you could.
I can do the graphic design for all of our posts. Pretty good.
Print one at a time, but it won't let me print more than one.
Okay. How's everyone today?
Good.
Good, how are you?
Good.
Have you moved over here yet?
Not yet, we're still in the process of figuring that out, so. All right, so the update is next, correct? All right, so I met with my road foreman this morning as well as my office staff. Some secondary road activities, we're clean brush right now. This week should be fine for clean brush, and we're gonna run some gravels a little bit too. Just doing some general shop maintenance. We are pouring culvert sections, we do every winter. One thing with secondary roads I wanted to mention, I know we can't act or really discuss it today. They are having an issue with their uniform service. The mechanics, the 4 mechanics we have a private uniform service currently. at the end of their contract, which two of them are done here in March 10th, their uniform service is not extending their contract. They're trying to find another company to service them, but the companies that they have found will only service them if they can build one entity instead of individually. So they are asking, mechanics are asking us if we can run that service through a payroll deduct. So the county would pay for the service and they would be deducted the cost of service from their payroll, potentially. I know we really can't discuss it, but it is something that the March 10th is the deadline that they lose their uniform service.
So they don't get anything for a credit or anything currently, they just want to have uniforms. And
they pay their own uniforms essentially. I mean, it would not be a bad thing to discuss possibly the county providing that service. Seems to be a valuable service to mechanics.
I know when my husband was a mechanic, I sure appreciated not having to do his oily and dirty clothes.
The quotes they got were anywhere between $9 and $15 a week, depending on exactly what service they're providing. If you do $15 a week for mechanics, it's $3,100 a year.
So it's just the mechanics?
Just the mechanics,
not
correct.
Drivers or?
No, just the
Whatever.
mechanics.
Do you think I will snowball into that?
I have some ideas on what we can do for the road department as far as maybe not necessarily uniforms, but some articles of clothing like safety apparel that would be very beneficial, especially in the winter time, because the road department, whenever they're on the road, are required to wear class 2 high visibility apparel. Right now, we only provide vests. So it might be something to consider buying them like t-shirts. You know, Cassup County example where I come from, we provide 2 t-shirts and either a sweatshirt or a jacket every year. So that the guys, when they're on the roads, they can wear the t-shirts because the vests can get very warm.
Was there high visibility sweatshirt?
They're high visibility, they're
T-shirts.
safety. Yep. Not just a generic, they are class 2, ANSI class 2 high visibility apparel. So in that aspect, that could potentially balance between the mechanics and the road department.
We'd have to check the IRS rules for providing uniforms. There may be tax thing to that for them if it is provided.
So maybe we have that on the agenda possibly next Monday. Not that I want to rush.
We
but
could-
the 10th
When is their contract over? Sorry.
10th of March.
I don't think there's an issue with doing the billing under the county. I'm not saying we want to jump into
And
not doing payroll deduction. I think, mid-year, and I think there's maybe some more thought process to go into because I think it might be a snowball effect.
absolutely, absolutely. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention that this is an issue that I've been made aware of and trying to figure out a solution for it. And I don't think they're not exactly asking for county to provide it, but I think it is, with this being transition, might be something to consider. Maybe we start that beginning fiscal year potentially.
Yeah.
It's not a huge cost.
So you said March 10th is their last.
March 10th is their end of their contract for 2 of them, and I think the 3rd one might be done in April, I think he said. And I think the 4th one never actually was never able to get into a contract.
And who are they in contract with?
That I do not know.
I'd be curious who they're in contract with that they wouldn't be willing to,
The
unless they
3,
had issues. Payments.
I don't know. I know they've looked at 3 different companies and the prices are about the same, but none of the companies are willing to do private contracts. They want to go through their employer, have one bill. And how we handle it from there is up to us.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's any sticky part to, because they are part of the union, if we were to provide them for one mechanics, but not in others, I think there might be a conversation with our attorneys with our union contract to
Yes,
just
and
feel out a little bit more about.
yes, and anything I can do to help out with that, let me know.
Are you comfortable reaching out to?
Was
Yeah.
that what?
I wondered if Oregon was comfortable reaching out to, Mike Galloway on,
Galloway or Chuck?
Taylor's-
Mike's who we usually use. We just got Jeff this last time because Mike is busy with union negotiations, but that should have slowed down now for him. So I like working with Mike. I don't know.
And if we can just do the county as a pass-through right now where they through payroll deduct or however they pay for this service right now. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what they're looking for, is just they want to continue the service and they feel it has value, because they're paying for it themselves. So I want to help and try to get this to continue if we can.
I can do a call with you too, if you'd like to, Mike.
Either way, as long as I can include you on it so that
Yeah.
you can provide clarification if I don't.
Yep. Yeah, let's plan on something this week to do a call, and then we can
Have a board
maybe
meeting
have
agenda.
action on Monday with how we want to proceed.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Adam, I have
Yes.
one question. Have you had a chance to meet with the crew out at that?
I have met with the foreman. I met a couple of the crew. I haven't met with everybody yet,
Okay,
but I did have a meeting with the foreman this morning, so I know,
sure.
getting to know the foreman somewhat, and I hope to, at some point in time, they usually have safety meetings once a quarter, so I hope to attend one of those and really get to know
I
them a
was
little
just
bit.
curious, yeah.
My time here has been limited,
I
so
know.
we're doing a lot in a short amount of time, so.
Yeah. No, I just a question, yeah.
Yep, yep.
So,
Moving on to office activities, we are working on getting right away for the 170th Street Bridge, which will be let this summer, I believe. We're working on getting maps ready for our contract rock. We also got a request in the office for a possible road vacation of Apple Avenue, which would be south of North Springs. The landowners there would like to vacate that road, which anytime we can vacate the road.
what's the name of the road again?
Apple Avenue.
Be the
It's
first-
about an eighth of a mile stub road.
Yeah,
not
be
very
the
long.
Yeah, it
first-
must be a
First
little-
road to the east of S70.
Let's see, I should probably point out to a map.
I know, I'm just curious on, or I guess I can Google it too. South of North Springs? you said?
Yes. Let's see,
Avon.
straight south. Go right.
There's
Oh,
Avon.
Would it
Yep.
be Avon?
No, it is, I believe it's that stub right there. So
We should have picture 911 gets that, where, if that is it. Where is that?
so we are starting the process, getting the
To
road
abandon that or whatever they call it.
to, yes, to vacate that is the proper term, yes. But then that road would go back to landowners, get off the secondary road system. So any opportunity we can to have vacate a road that's not being used is
Mhm.
beneficial to the county.
Okay,
Let's see, one other thing is my schedule for next week. Next week will be my first full-time week. I'll probably be here Monday at the board meeting since we have this agenda item. I have a conference on Wednesday through Friday down in Des Moines next week, so I will not be here Wednesday through Friday. We've got our asphalt conference. Couple of our two technicians will be at the federal aid training down in Hiawatha on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I've got Dwayne coming down to the asphalt conference for Thursday, Friday. So our office will be a little scarce next week.
Tracy back?
Tracy is back today, yes. That is what I have for an update. Do you have any questions?
well, item 12, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I wonder, so it was always kind of helpful, especially for doing minutes, that Jacob and his predecessor, they had just a little notes on those topics from those meetings, like maybe what you're reading from. Dusty's was always handwritten, Jacob's was
Sure.
usually typed. He used to provide a page of that to each of the supervisors for the meeting and the auditor.
Okay,
Just to kind of help us remember what are we, you know, you talked about a lot of things
Yeah.
in a couple of minutes.
Yep,
And
just
it's
my
just-
general, I've got just a punch list item here that
Yeah,
I
that's
printed off
what,
this morning.
yeah, that's what they used to
Sure.
provide. It was kind of helpful and to make sure Morgan gets those highlights in the minutes as well.
Yeah, I can make a note to provide that.
Will you email me what you have today?
I can do that. Yeah. Yep. I might put just a couple little more notes on my, so it's a little neater. My handwriting's not very good. Anything else? For
Is
discussion?
this the road here again? Can you look at this? here?
Sure.
Is
Well,
that it? Or no?
it's two. This map.
Yeah, give me a road on there.
190th. So where it would be. So I think you're too far south. There's 210. Other way. I don't get numbers right. Get myself oriented here. It's right there. I think. Apple Lane.
Oh, sure, right there. There it is, Apple Lane.
Yep.
I've never noticed that. Like it's all dirt
Once in a
road
while,
maybe.
you find those random roads that just aren't really a road anymore, and
Yeah,
as long as the landowners are in agreement,
Yeah.
it's just good to get them off the
I do well.
system, so.
Yep.
Anything else for discussion?
Don't have anything, item 12. That's you two.
That is me too. We have, two sets of plans for the board to sign. One is, HMA. See which one's first listed on there.
B47 LFM fiscal year 2505,
05, okay.
7X-34.
This one is the resurfacing, B47, which is west of Rockford. Planning to let this project in March.
It goes past our new tower.
I think so.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So basically, just plans need to be signed, however you wanna
I
address.
just, I have,
Signed by all three, well, in this case, two board members.
Sure.
If Boyd wants to come in later and sign them, he's more than welcome to.
Okay, well, I'll leave them a message.
Yep. So I pass this. You guys, I don't know if you guys need any action on it. That's up to you.
we've got review and action on there. We can go ahead. Do it. Can we do both of them at the same time?
Absolutely.
And that's
I can give you
the,
those sheets right here. This
LMF
is-
fiscal year or FY 2506 7X34.
And this one is redoing the bridge approaches on T38, which is south of Osage. And doing about a half a mile of paving in there, that there's one really rough patch in there we're trying to fix up. Get semi-permanent fix on that best we can with the money we have available.
Okay.
To try to smooth things out. So I've got both sets of plans here. Both title sheets, I should say.
So I would make a motion that we approve the final plans for B47 resurfacing project LFM FY 2505 7X34 and T38 bridge approaches and resurfacing project LFM FY 2506 7X34.
I'll second that motion. Any other discussion? None, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Sorry, it is 2-0 then.
Good.
Motion carried 2-0.
Yes. And I know there was some question about final plans, if they need to be on the agenda or not on the agenda. And I can't recall, to tell you the truth, if final plans have, or if it's just we've approved a project initially. And I couldn't answer that on, did we do that already on this one, or?
In Cassuth, we don't put final plans. My boss and brings it up during discussion and the board signs it during discussion. That's how
Okay,
we done in Cassuth.
But when was the plan originally approved?
I believe the plan will be originally approved when you approve your 5-year plan program.
Okay, I think we probably have done something, just because the 5-year plan changes sometimes.
Well, I understand that. I will caution you though, that if you want to do an approval, just to do an approval, that's fine, but if you want to actually decide whether or not you want to do the project, this is not the time to do it.
I would agree.
A lot of work into these plans.
No, I would agree with that. I just don't know if we ever formally approved it. When,
Every project we do should be on the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And which you guys approve. I mean, granted, there may be projects on the 5-year plan that we don't do. That's unlikely, especially in the first
It
year.
happens.
It happens.
after 20 years, it's happened.
Yep, yep.
Things get
But
shifted.
we're not, without doing an amendment to the 5-year plan, we won't do a project that's not on the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
That answers your question.
Yeah. But no, I agree. This is just, we would not be able to say, nope, we don't want to do this one. This is just approved final plan, so.
Yes, it's, as I said, if it's just a run-of-the-mill approved final plans, I'm fine with that. If there's gonna be a rejected. this
Maybe
isn't
we
the
can go
time.
back and look at some history and stuff and see.
However you guys want to address it.
So for Boyd's signature, he comes by later today to your office or Morgan's office, where you
My
want,
office, yeah.
your office.
I'll
okay.
make sure it's set out and I can,
I'll send Boyd a message.
or if he can't make it in today, if he has to come tomorrow, the rest of the week, the office staff will be able to help him out.
Okay,
They'll show him right where to sign.
If he doesn't sign, it's probably okay too, because it was just 2-0.
We've had that before too, where one
Yeah.
board member wasn't able to sign it for some reason.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. So, I do have a couple comments for budget time whenever you guys.
yeah, we're gonna go right into that, so. And, any future agenda items?
Yes, the health and dental rates, last week.
What?
Health and dental rates, we haven't done that. Health and dental rates, I have health and dental rates for next week. And that, just on that, they talked that they were going to get us a quote on that dental. Because we have only had our plan for the 1 year, and they only had 6 months of information to bid that plan, they won't be doing another quote. They have to have another year under our belt before they can do that. So that 6% dental health insurance stands.
Is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the other item, I don't think it maybe needs to be an agenda item, but I am seriously considering moving our meetings to a Tuesday from Monday, so. I think it needs any official action. We can talk about it at some point in time, so.
Yeah, it is I think it is in our policy that we meet on Mondays, but I can't remember.
I looked at it and I don't think it does.
It's not in there.
I mean, I don't know if I have them with me, but I looked at it this weekend, Lori, and
And we do set it at our organizational meeting. So it may not
the
be a
workshops
policy,
and stuff
but
like that.
we do set it in our organizational meeting, so we could probably
But I'll,
make a motion just because we did it as a
let
motion.
me
in
talk with
January.
Todd too, and see if, I don't think he needs to be involved. But
I don't think he needs to be involved. I would just say it's a motion because we made a motion for it in January.
So, and then we need to also follow up with that first, that agency that met with us, the Assistant Associates, the John that came up from Cedar Falls. We need to make a decision if we want them to do any more work with us or give us a proposal. We can't leave them hanging like, so far, that's what we've done, so.
I don't want to hand everything over to them to leave it all up to them.
What's that?
I don't want to well, we can talk about it. But I don't want to make it them be the one who gets all the quotes and stuff. I don't want to do that.
Who would get the quotes if they don't?
I don't want them to be that person that says, we'll get you quotes. Like they said that they could.
Be an
do.
advisory.
Yeah.
Okay, no. We talk about it, but yeah, it needs to be an agenda item next week, so. Other than that, that's all I've got, so far.
Next week, we are probably going to need to do some budget appropriations. Several departments that are getting close to because there's the 90% appropriation, we have several departments that are really getting pretty close to that, so we need to do some amendments there. And
That's a resolution to amend, to appropriate to 100%. Certain departments. 100%. Or
I think that's the only one I have.
grab some papers.
Okay, printed for the budget. They're not printing, so. I'll email it.
So, but
Maybe right back, Skip is asleep in here.
give any handouts for that, Morgan?
I do not.
They're in my car.
I think we have some more information. Maybe Gloria will have other things to add, but I think we have some information to collect still. Did you talk to Sheriff?
No.
Okay, so they probably have. And I did not get information to Gloria. So.
Used to when I print something, if it was asleep, it'd wake up and it'd print. Now I have to wake it up and then tell it to print. I don't know what that's about. Well, how about if we start with Adam? I know one thing we need to talk to you about is road clearing to budget. Is that what you know about? You're aware of that?
Well, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I can bring up. I talked with Jacob a little bit, did a little bit of training last Thursday while I was here about some budget stuff, just so I could follow what he does. You're talking about what area is that?
Department 41.
Department 41, yes.
So let us tell you our situation.
Yes.
We have a comp board recommendation for sheriff's wages. And because the sheriff's deputies are tied to the sheriff's wages, he has 3 deputies that are in secondary or in rural services. And there's not a lot of revenue opportunities in rural service. And the expenses are, what they are.
Yes.
And we've reduced the recommendation just on paper for budget, not official, for those deputies to a lower level just because we can't give them the recommended increase. And we have a policy that we have to maintain 25% of our fund balance.
Yes.
And we can't do it without reducing them even more.
Sure.
And so that's, and it's across the board. So it's the sheriff, it's the other deputies that are paid out of rural and supplemental and general fund. And so that's the situation that we're in. And we don't have anywhere to cut anything. Rural Services has those 3 deputies. It has the collection site. It has road clearing. It has zoning. And there's outside of the large transfer, there's not much for expenses and we're limited in our expenses. So the only thing that I could think of is, we've already made those suggestions for reducing their wages, their increases in wages. And my only other thought, the only other place to pull from would be road clearing. And so in the road clearing, I think it was, I don't have it pulled up, but last week it was reducing this year's fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26. I think it was 17,500 or 18,500, something like that over 2 years. Sorry, I don't have that. But that's what we were looking at. That's what we're dealt with.
Sure.
Okay, so now I'll let you go.
So my understanding is the secondary road department uses that road clearing fund for some training, some purchasing, some spray materials.
Yeah.
And then what's left of that budget then gets transferred over to the secondary road fund.
Right, for brush.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, in the secondary road fund, the actual road clearing budget is 280,000.
Is what?
280,000.
You mean there's some in your department?
Yes.
Yeah, because in Department 41, it's just 80.
Yes, that's
2,000, I believe.
88,000 or something like that.
82.
Is it 280 or 80?
He
in my
has in
budget,
Department 20.
Department
road
20,
clearing.
we have a road clearing budget of 280,000.
Okay.
And my understanding is most of that is used.
Oh, yeah, I bet it probably is.
So
And then they
that,
always, the last check in June 30th, last claim run, is whatever's left in Department 41, they cut a check to secondary roads.
to help offset that
Yeah.
280,000.
Yeah.
So the money is used for road clearing. It's not that it's extra, it is revenue for the secondary road fund. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with the rural services. My thought is, if you needed to cut some from rural services, could you increase some from a different fund to the secondary road to offset that? Would that be an option?
Well, my thoughts on that are, that is one of the things that you can use to offset the formula that we give to you anyway. That and sales tax revenue and that fund. I don't think the secondary roads fund, did you run a fund balance and your fund balance?
Yes.
Your fund is sitting the healthiest than any fund in the county. And I
Sure.
know that's subject to,
Well,
you have more projects one year than another year, and so you.
that's the issue with
save-
secondary road
Yeah.
fund is we have to build that up so that we can actually spend for larger projects, because when we do projects, they could be $1 million, $2 million a piece.
Yeah.
So we have to build up that fund balance in order to be able to do those projects.
Yeah. My thoughts are, this amount of money is probably not gonna hurt your fund balance to not allow the project to happen. Because valuations have gone up, you're getting more money every year because valuation's gone up every year. So I don't think your fund is going to be hurt, because you're getting that money anyway.
If we're talking $31,000, right?
Yeah, 37 or whatever.
37.
It was over 2 years. 17,000 or 18, I'm not finding my sheet right now from last week.
So you're asking us to not cut that last check of the year for this fiscal year and
When
take it away for next fiscal year?
It would just be less, we'll set like 17 or 18,500 less. This year and next year. But it would be.
I completely understand where you're coming from. And I don't wanna the first thing here to lose money for the secondary road fund is where I'm struggling. But I do understand that budgets are tight. So I think I haven't looked that closely into everything. I'm just kind of scratching the surface on stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't think that 31,000 is gonna make or break us. Just as long as it doesn't become 31,000 a year, now 34,000 a year. And
It
so,
happen, you don't want it to happen every year.
correct. Correct.
Yeah, so the current budget is 88,300, and it, like projections here to make everything happen otherwise is to reduce it to 70,050 is the most I can get.
Once you start doing the snowball effect, then you're gonna start affecting services. And then some very difficult decisions will have to be made.
Yeah, problem is house file,
I
718.
I completely understand.
Yeah. So $18,250 is what less this year and next year that it would cause. But we've well made up for that with valuations that would fund from
Well-
rural in general.
Again, it's your guys' decision.
I just don't know what else, what other options that we have. And I can't promise that what our valuations might be for next year's taxes. We got 5 years of this. And that it wouldn't be, that the fiscal year 27, it might be increased or whatever.
Sure, sure,
Worst case scenario, decreased again.
yes.
That's just for the 3 deputies that are paid out of that fund,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like that we'll have to absorb that. If that's your guys' decision, that's,
I just don't know how else the board can do it.
sure.
That's the only solutions we've come up with so far is reducing what was requested. And, Boyd has talked about reducing it more. He mentioned that last week. And I haven't crunched those numbers for him, because I didn't know how Dennis came out with his conversation.
I haven't talked to him yet. I'm still struggling with the back to blue, but I'll get it done.
Yeah, we need to get that going here.
The unfunded mandates are.
I know, it's just ridiculous. I just feel like we weren't part of the dirty 30 and
There was the suit since they're.
Kasuth had their situation. It was a one-time situation, wasn't it, with Kasuth? Or had they been on the list, on the naughty list?
Oh, no, we've never been on audit
Never been on.
that I'm aware of.
These are the 3 deputies.
With House File 718 has affected them as well.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So this is what.
Them maybe more so.
And the thing of it is it doesn't sound like for the 30 for most of the 30 counties, that in the 5 years, this is gonna get them down to $3.50.
So, yes, it's.
It's
I hope something changes, but
Yeah. I mean, we'll keep working with the budget here. We just ran out of other ideas on how to do it.
So what-
There's
how
just
much
not
are we
enough in that.
there's not enough coming
One
from
point
that.
3%. They were proposing,
And yeah, I don't know enough to
and now we're proposing only 8%.
be able to make any further recommendations as far as that amount goes.
It's just reducing what was proposed.
You know, we talked about even doing more than 8%. Seven?
I don't know that that's been verbally said or anything, but.
That's where I think you need to study up on the back of blue, because I think there could be legal ramifications to that as well, that from what the conversation with Jeff was.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did some research this weekend about that.
I looked up the back of blue, I got Senate file 80 something and another state code, and when I read it, Jerry didn't address that at all. So either it was just a brief,
Did you look at Iowa code?
yeah, that's what I just said, yeah. I looked
Oh,
at
I thought you said that,
the Iowa codes, 2 different ones, and neither one of them addressed salary. And I thought I brought that piece of paper with me, my notes, but I don't think I threw it in this morning. But I'll do it because obviously salary is part of it. But what I found last week, it didn't address it, so. I think one was Senate file or one was state code 80, yes, maybe. Memory serves me right.
ISAC sent out information. I don't know if you still have that or not. Is there any other concerns about any budget stuff that you?
I did make a couple of changes last Thursday while I was here. I did update the engineer's salary. Make sure the budget supported the new engineer's salary. Also,
Can you put that increase in there then to the 5,000 or whatever increase for next year, 6-month increase?
oh, 3%.
Yep.
Yes, I made the whole thing at the 3% increase to cover, make sure I was covered.
Okay.
So I have enough money in that budget to cover salaries and any contingencies that might arise. There's one other area. I talked to our consultant who is designing our slab bridge that we let in June, and his budget number for that bridge increased substantially. So I had to make a change on that. That is a federally funded job, so it's just kind of a pass-through type deal. But if you have any questions on that, feel free to let me know.
You said something about the revenue didn't match the expenditures. There was a little more on the expenditures.
There's a little more on the expenditure side. I think that includes some potential for fence replacements and land acquisitions that's not reimbursed by federal aid. So that's why those
where
numbers
the
are a little different.
775,000 got changed to like 1.25 or something like that. Yes, I made those edits this morning.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna look up that fund balance to see where we're at. That one. Yeah, so with those adjustments, the increase in salary, the changes in the project, you're still at a 29.69% increase, or 28.69. And if we throw what we would do, what you could play with also is just throw in that reduction to 70,050 for this year and next year in rural services and whatever line item that changes in yours. But
Yes, I'd have to look into that a
what
little
was
bit, which revenue item that
what
comes
was
in.
the current year fund balance? Fiscal year 25 percentage carryover. Yeah, so you're 34% right now for carry.
Yeah, 34, sorry.
For this fiscal year. And 29 for next fiscal year. And that 17,000 isn't gonna affect that $1 million budget too, or help 7 million, whatever that budget is.
Sure.
$7 million budget, whatever it is, too bad. I think you'll be
I have full faith it will be fine. It looks like there's enough cushion in there that will be okay.
well, you got a little extra cushion anyway, because I think you kept the 3% in for all the employees.
Correct.
And that will be 2.75, likely will be, with the board leaning on 2.75.
And I did want to touch on that point just a little bit too, if I could. I did just a little bit of looking at the different job classifications in my office and the foreman and superintendent. I know Jacob put in 3% for everybody.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about 2.75. I would like to request you look at 3% for the assistance positions and the foreman positions. So there's 3 foremen and then there's 2 assistants. I've done a little research on that. I'll give these to you. It looks like we're falling just a tad behind on the assistant to the engineer's position as well. And the foreman position is actually not much more than a general heavy equipment operator. And if it gets too much closer, they'll get to a point where we may not be able to get foreman, because if they don't, what's the point of being a foreman if you don't get more money, basically? You get a lot more responsibility for not much more pay.
We currently have 4 foremen, right?
We have a superintendent and 3 foremen, is my understanding.
So there was a schedule that was put together for the assistants. It was a 5-year plan. Do you remember when we got that? For the assistants that they were doing a 5-year plan.
I
Is
haven't
that in
seen
here?
that yet, no.
That would be back in, should be something that would have been saved. I think it was, seems like 2 years ago.
Do we need 3 foremen?
I don't know that answer to that question right now,
Okay,
because I haven't seen enough of their operation to know how everything works.
Okay.
So if,
Could you provide that kind of a comparison when you do the foremen with these other counties? How
about,
many foremen?
how many foremans they have?
superintendents?
I can look into that, yes, I put this together this morning, so.
Cause I think like, didn't Sarah Gordo tell us that they have 3 foremen, but no superintendent?
Mitchell has one foreman, they share it with
And how many,
Worth,
and the superintendent or not?
no, just, well, I don't,
Could you give us those numbers too?
I can look into that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to take the office and the foreman kind of as a whole. From what I've noticed between Cassuth and Floyd, is that we have 2 foremen, 1 for north, 1 for south. We have 6 people in our office. Our office staff there do some of what the foremen here do. So the tasks are separated out a little bit differently.
Yeah, you're always gonna have that. That's one of the things they said when we talked about salary survey stuff is that some call
Yes.
those tasks.
For example, the superintendent here handles a lot of the equipment spec out and purchases. In Cassuth, the engineer did that. So there's a little bit, we're trying to divvy out the tasks here, maybe to more of the lower paid individuals, but they might be more qualified to do that task. I'm still learning about what everybody does,
Sure.
and so I can't answer that question whether we have too many foremen or not at this time. I mean, definitely something I want to look at and see if we can find some efficiencies and maybe not have as many foremen, but
Right, that might make a difference if you're comparing to what other counties have.
yes.
If there's 3 foremen and a superintendent at comparable counties to us,
Mhm.
or if there's 3 total foremen, superintendent, whatever that is,
Yeah,
and ours are paid a little less, well, they've spread the work out a little farther.
yes. But I'm looking at a foreman compared to our heavy equipment or our regular equipment operators. And that wage is not much more than what our operators are making. There's no incentive there to be a foreman. You got all the responsibility, all the extra tasks, but you're not getting the extra money for it. That's what I'm concerned.
do they have any other perks, though? Foreman, do they drive a county truck?
They told me the only other perk they have is they drive a county truck home. That's what I was told this morning.
That's some value too.
So that has a little bit of value, correct? It also has value to Floyd County, because then they are available to answer calls a lot quicker than coming into Charles City, getting a pickup and going where they need to go.
I wonder how often that's happening,
As far as how often they go out,
how often they get a call after they've left work.
I know Tim says he takes quite a few calls after hours. I don't know how
To
often. he
get
goes
the
out.
county vehicle or just calls?
Just calls, I think, but they do also go out when it's weather, they go out and check roads
Sure.
right away early in the morning. So that saves them time that way. There is definitely value to that. I don't know where all the foremen live, but for them to come to Charles City, grab a pickup and go out, that could be an extra half hour potentially. Or if they could just leave from their house and go run roads throughout the county.
Are they all right now?
So we're going to take $18,250 out of rural services years,
That's what we're talking about.
pay for those 3 deputies. Their
Well,
increase.
too, yeah.
Maybe not specifically that, but just more so,
To cover 25% carry.
yeah,
Yep.
to cover the fund balance.
Fund balance, okay.
And that's where I know Morgan sent her email out saying, double check your budgets. Is there anywhere where your intent was, I don't remember how it was worded, but anywhere where you underestimated revenues or overestimated expenses that make for this fiscal year and next year's projections, because that makes a difference too. If anything's understated or overstated, like for example, the sheriff has $1,000 revenue coming from rural services. There's no history of receiving any revenue. So I know there's $1,000 that likely isn't going to happen. No history of it. I'm not sure why he puts $1,000 in there every year for revenue because it doesn't happen.
As I learn more for my budget, I hope to be able to do that a little bit more. Make sure that the numbers match somewhat what they're spending. We do need to have some contingency in the budget. I don't want to be coming back every 6 months with budget amendment. There's so many variables in the secondary road department. But my ultimate goal is to not spend my full budget. But I want to have it there so we know what the fund balance is in case we need it.
And if you were to look at the history of that ending fund balance every year,
Yep.
it's way accelerated what the expectations are. So
And that's good.
sometimes that can be perceived as a padded budget. But again, it often in your case is you got 3 projects coming up next year and you only did 2 projects this year, or that can affect that ending fund balance.
And the timing of projects can affect that as well. The fiscal year ends
Yep.
June 30th, begins July 1st, right in the middle of construction season. So that those are monkey wrenching things sometimes too.
Yep.
So, but I think that's all that I really have. Any other questions or things I can answer for you budget wise? Try to answer.
Welcome on board.
It's been a whirlwind couple of weeks, but
Yeah,
we'll
well,
get there.
yeah.
We'll get there. We got a good office staff up above, so. But I did want to bring the salaries up, just trying to keep the guys from falling too far behind. Cause I know that's what Jacob recommended for everyone. And I saw just a couple areas that looks like there might need assistance in the future. So, thank you much.
And I'm just looking, I'm not seeing it, but Dwayne would know what we're talking about with that scheduled increase. It seems like it was over a period of years, and I don't know if we've hit all those years already for the assistance.
For the assistance, I will have to look for that. I haven't seen it.
It was a 5-year plan, and I
I've
don't
glanced through a lot of files. This is a completely different system than what I'm used to, so I'm trying to find things.
Yeah.
So
And I'm looking here too, and I'm not coming
I'll
across
ask
it thinking I
Dwayne if
could.
there's some sort of a salary schedule, probably what you're looking for.
Yeah, you're finding it either.
I mean, it would be a good idea to get something established.
Well, I bet Dwayne's got it. Or Tracy may have it.
I wouldn't mind getting the office staff on a schedule that's comparable to the percentage of the engineer's salary. Then I don't have to worry about one salary a year, everybody else is a percentage of it. I'll look for that.
It could be that it's a little farther back than what I think.
That could be as well. Cause nothing was mentioned to me about it, so. But I'll ask Dwayne and Tracy and see if they know.
But there was something to get, I know there was to get Jake up and pay.
Sure.
And so I wonder if we're hitting the mark here, if we maybe aren't following, if that schedule has gotten by the wayside and we maybe aren't following it for the assistance anyway.
Sure, and if that's the case, I will definitely look at it and let you know.
Yeah.
So we can get that adjusted, corrected.
Yeah, sounds good.
So, okay, thank you.
You bet.
Have
Thank
a good
you.
day, guys.
Okay. I'm gonna email you. For some reason, my printer's not printing. Just sent it. I got you in there too. Get that email yet, Dennis? Are you sure to be there?
You just sent it to me, right? I got it here.
Yeah, did you get that one? You could open that up. I'll just do a quick once over with that.
This is. Then let's talk to Jeff.
You're looking at, oh, you're looking down. Yeah, I put notes off to the side so that we'd have that as well.
But we're not leaving them at the 9.33% increase, are we?
No, they're at 8%.
8%, okay.
Yeah,
Can we get a, how come it doesn't show that on here yet at 8%?
it does. Well, it shows Jeff at 8%. You see Jeff there. But the increase for the deputies, it's on, do you see it there?
Yeah, it's hard, it's small. How do I get
Let me
this?
try printing again.
Well, how can I increase my screen? How do I do that?
Open it up outside of this email. It's a lot across the page anyway.
But it still shows 9.33%.
It says the 9.33 with the dash. Yeah, the 8% in there, it's just.
Yeah, with the dash, it went to 8%, but if you see I put the sheriff at. It's a lot.
There's a Zoom button up here. You can zoom in.
Oh, okay.
So it's got 9.33 to 8%. But again, all of them are they've got longevity, some of them have step increases. So they're all well over 8% overall because of those factors.
What about Wilson Pittsburgh?
I can't imagine that that we would allow them to get an
29.
increase to 29. I think that is.
I don't disagree with you, but what would be a reasonable number? 26, 27?
24. So what, 2.75 for that job? Why do you think it's worth more than?
Well, well, what's Wilsie's first name? I can't think of it.
Vanessa.
Vanessa's been there a long time, right? 10 years, 12 years. I mean, I think 27 is plenty, but this is what Jeff has recommended for them. Oh, wait a minute.
Jeff has recommended 29 for them.
20, oh yeah, I was looking at 23, 29, yeah.
It is work to the board. Sorry. I just don't see the duties requiring $27 an hour even. And I tell you what, if you do that, Dennis, I'm gonna fight for Lexi and Jen to get that much.
Right.
Just for workloads and.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. I'd like to find a number from 20 to 2360.
I think part of what you're going to do is ask him for comparables for what other office staff get paid and other jailers get paid, and that was part of your task, not just the back blue part, but.
Yep, I understand. Okay.
I don't understand that you would go from 24 to 27 because they've been here a lot of years. Yeah. Well, he said 27. Like maybe 26 or 27.
Going from 2360 to 29.
That's what Jeff.
Jeff's recommendation. That wasn't the compensation board, obviously.
No. They're not tied to elected official. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we're wasting our time until you have those conversations to request those comparables.
Yep, I get it. I understand.
And again, boy, you're gonna just have an outcry if you do so much there and you've got the treasurer staff and the recorder staff and the auditor staff that are well under that, assessors person, Caitlin, way under that, sheriff, county attorney's office, way under that. I commend him for putting in a dollar amount, and he can go back and if the board doesn't allow it, he goes back to the board and says, I tried, and he tried. But I think you have to have comparables to know, and but I do want to mention, it's just that what I've got highlighted, I think in yellow is more to mention. And when we were looking at the salaries last week with Amanda, and I said, yep, that's the 4.66 would be tied to the auditor's wage. The auditor's getting a 4.66 increase. However, I got to thinking those, when I'm looking at somebody else's number, it's like, that's not 80% wage. And so off to the right, I put at her 80% wage would be 34.11. Her 4.66% increase with what her current wage is 32. So I got back to looking to see how do we get off from that 80%. And we got off of the 80% because the supervisors have control over people who are not tied to, it's the auditor's desire or whoever for these non-deputy positions to be similar to as in treasurer's office, well, I'll say then the recorder's office, Kim with a 75% of the auditor's salary, and Amanda at 80% of the auditor's salary. I don't know if I said that backwards or not, but anyway, so last year, current year for fiscal year 25, the auditor got more than the 3% increase, and the assistant only got the 3% increase or whatever it was last year that all employees got that weren't tied to an elected official. So that's how she's fallen off of that 80% mark. But I'm not saying that that's that she should be at 34.11 an hour. I'm just stating information that 32.07 is not 70 or 80% of the auditor's wage at an hourly rate. That makes sense. Okay, so then you can go down to, I did talk to, or I've got on Adams, I put TBD for, that's the 2 summer help people. And I see in Adam's budget, he's got $1,000 extra in his budget. He's gone from 10,000 to 11,000. So he's accommodated already in his budget for FICA and IPERS, and if he is going to give an increase over $14 an hour. So I don't think there's anything we need to do with that one.
Ashley, is that Adams Ganson? Is that the Ashley you're talking about?
Ashley's in the treasurer's office.
She is talking down underneath Spencer below the 2 TBD. This Cedar's budget.
Okay.
Go down further.
Conservation, what number?
The 2 yellow 14s.
Yeah, you just follow the yellow cards,
Yeah.
pretty much where we'll be at. The other yellows above their wages are just people who are going to be at that new rate for fiscal year 24. 6, excuse me. And then on the medical examiners, your Department 28, I had a meeting on Friday, I forgot to mention that, I had a meeting on Friday with Dr. Schroep. And we talked about the medical examiner's budget. And he currently is paid at $2,000 in annual salary, but if he has to go on site for a call, he gets $200 per call that he goes on site. So we have $3,000 in the budget for him. He is not sure if he's going to stay on as medical examiner beyond his 2-year appointment, which ends December 31st this year. He does think you're gonna have a tough time finding someone to be the county medical examiner at the rates that we have established. However, what I did in the budget was I just put 4,000 in that last column section there with highlights. And that is to account for if you did bump him to $3,000 starting July 1st, and then that allows 5 times that he might go on scene to get $200 in a year, which I think so far this year he had 3 payrolls he turned in for $200. He had a $600 and a $200 so far this year, where he's gone on site. Yep.
600.
Okay.
So an extra $1,000 already.
Yep. Yeah. But that doesn't happen very often. So I just put 4,000 in the budget for him. On the medical examiner investigators, they currently are paid $65 if they do an investigation, but no autopsy is required. And if an autopsy is required, causes some more work for them to do, and that's $175 that they get if an autopsy is required. But what 2 of the medical examiner investigators said, as well as Dr. Schroep confirmed on Friday, that they are spending a lot of time on those $65 ones. He said that they could spend as much time, they can spend a lot of time on things like just at one medical examiner investigator ended up going, waiting in the hospital for 3 hours just so before he could complete his investigation. And then they spend nearly a few, 2 to 3, couple of hours or better doing the Ives work in the system. So they could easily have 6 hours in a investigation. And so, and then if they find that there's no autopsy required, $65 isn't covering their time. So what he has proposed is that any investigation where the autopsy ends up being determined it's required or not required, that they get $175. So I pulled that, I didn't bring that folder with me, but
Is that what Schroep recommended?
Schroep recommended the 175. He said there's a lot of details to the Ives report that they have to do, and he recommends the 175, no matter what.
That's up from 60.
For those. So I looked, hang on, let me grab I forgot a folder. Let me grab a folder. So the state has where you can go online and you can find, they don't have 24's data up there yet, but you can pull these reports. And so I pulled them for the last 4 years. And that's, I've got an average that I've got off to the side where there were 40.5 total investigations. I think one year was probably a COVID year that had a little bit more. I do have a call to the state medical examiners. I called them on Friday, but I have not heard back from them yet. I had 4 different questions that I asked of them, and so they're gonna get back to me. They said it probably would be Monday, so I expect to hear from them today. But this is 2020 through 2023's information, and you can see on these spots right here. This, a couple of those down, so you can see what I'm talking about. And these are different years, so your numbers are gonna be different. This is one that's the highest in that. I don't know if that's some of the COVID. Yeah, just so you can see what I'm talking about. You can get one to look at too if you want.
Oh, they're not the same?
No, they're not the same. They're not the same, but just so you see what I'm looking at. So so I happen to be looking at one that's 2020 data. You're gonna have 21, 22, and 23 data. But the one I'm looking at has deaths at 177. Deaths investigated was 40 on mine. So yours is probably somewhere.
Mine's 134, deaths investigated is 34.
34. Yep. And yours probably has somewhere around that 34. One has a 54 number, I think, on it. I think that's some of the COVID stuff maybe too, causing some of that. But then, so if you look at that number, I took the average of those 4 years and came up with 40.5 for an average number of deaths investigated. And the one I'm looking at, the number of autopsies, I had 40 deaths, but the number of autopsies was 9. So 9 of them on this example, they would have had $175 for. And yours had 15. Yeah. But if you take like my 40 number times 175, or actually I took 41, I took 41 times 175 and ended up, I put $8,000 in the budget, just using an average. It could be more or less, but just use that number. My question to the person when I called, I said, so it's got deaths investigated as 40, but then it's got autopsies 9. Does that mean it's 40 or total, or is it 49 total? And the person couldn't answer the question, so she's going to find out. I would think that all deaths investigated would include autopsy deaths, but I don't know. So that number may need to be a little bit higher if she says, no, we got to add those 2 together. I don't know, but I put 8,000 in budget for that. We just have to consider if we would go to 175 for all investigations, because they're still doing investigation. It's just through the investigation, does it require an autopsy? Either way, they do the investigation, they have to go into the ICE system. That's what they're saying. It takes a lot of time to do that. So that's how I came up with 8,000 in the budget anyway. The other things that we talked about is I've had 2 of those same medical examiner investigators had asked me if the county is, we had talked a while back about would we consider providing a transport vehicle that they could do the transports. And I'd like to get I don't have access to the calendar anymore for the van, and I don't know if we even have access to the old calendar anymore. I think that I'll have to read it. But that the van is totally underused for the county van. And I want to have the van or I want Morgan to want to have the van for hauling election equipment. And some people may not want to take the county van if they've got a trip, like I've got it scheduled for my meeting tomorrow. But I'm not, there's some requirements that you have to be able to make sure you can secure a body down in the van. And that's the conversion part that we would have to do something with. But right now we're paying so much to AMR and anybody that's, we have a contract for $1,000 for transports that Hauser Funeral Home would do. But Hauser has not been able to take any transports for some time because of their schedule. And so then it pushes to AMR, or we also have North Springs, but North Springs has been out of commission, and my understanding is that they have ended up having to call Fullerton to do some transports. I don't know if any invoices have come through for that yet, but they've had Fullerton do transports because they gotta get that body down to Ankeny. And so I asked Dr. Schroed if we are gonna have an employee, an MEI, do those transports, what's a rate that you would pay with that? He said, oh, I said, I would think, no less than $20 an hour to drive that vehicle down there, their time to drive it down there. He says, you got about 2.5 hours down there, you got 2.5 hours back. So it compared to the $1,600 we're paying to MR, you can save a lot of money in transports. And we have MEIs that are willing to do those transports.
What happens if Dr. Schroed doesn't want to continue to be the medical examiner?
So I put feelers out so there's a legislative proposal out there right now that is expanding. Right now, you can only have an MD or a DO that can be the medical examiner. There's a legislative proposal out there that allows advanced nurse practitioners or physician's assistants to also be added to that list. So that allows us to expand.
Bigger pool of people.
Yep. And so I have talked to one advanced nurse practitioner who I need to send her some information on what it's all about, but it's dependent on the legislative proposal passing. But I know the state medical examiner's office is in support of that because what they hear a lot is small counties don't have a pool. And so it needs to be expanded to those other two categories. So that opens it up.
Medical examiner needs to go to any unattended death. Is that true, or?
The investigator or the examiner?
Examiner.
The medical examiner rarely goes to a case. That's where he's had those 3 times and 2 times that Dr. Schroed has gone on site for whatever reason that the medical examiner investigator couldn't do anything. Otherwise, the investigator is doing the work, putting it in eyes. Dr. Schroed is checking it and
So if the investigator is there and that person isn't sure about something at the site, you call Dr. Schroed or whoever the medical examiner, and then they come.
If they may be able to do it over the phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Schroed said he has no interest in trumping in ditches to get to a scene and it's working well. He said it's working well. He does just think that, for $3,000-4,000 a year, he can't imagine that there's going to be very many that are going to be willing to do this, even if you open it up to PAs and AR, advanced nurse practitioners.
Yeah, well, I think I can kind of understand that to some degree.
Yeah. But I have talked to one. He thinks that some of the new ones, maybe there's new nurse practitioners and physician's assistants. It's got to be more of a kind of election workers. You do it because it's a civic duty kind of thing, not for the pay necessarily. So I think it would probably be, as far as the other items that are in the budget for expenses, we've got one line item in there that's around $40,000, and that's to pay for autopsies and transports. And so I think if we would decide to do the conversion of the van, and so we might end up with another line item for what that materials cost to do that conversion, or service to do that conversion. But then the cost for transports would be significantly less, but our wages would end up being more. But I think it would pretty much be a wash for what we have budgeted anyway to get us going if we wanted to do that conversion. So the investigators are, or 2 of them anyway, are willing, if we've got the vehicle to do it. I think they could do it more timely in many cases.
Who are two investigators?
We have, Dawn Stout is the lead house caller on it, and she's willing, and we have Bryce Ham, who's willing to do transports, and then we have Marty Parcher, Bill Duncan, and Eric Whipple. And Eric is the emergency management coordinator in Cerro Gordo County, but he lives in North Springs. He doesn't take, my understanding is he doesn't take on a lot of the MEI calls, but does stay current with it. Dawn doesn't think he would probably want to do transports. Marty and Bill, she's not sure how long Marty might stay with this yet, just because he's trying to retire and whether he would continue doing this or not. And kind of the same with Bill. He's getting in that retirement age as well, and she's not sure if he would continue. So they also, both Dr. Schroed and Dawn, recommend that we start doing a pool for advertising, maybe more for more medical examiner investigators, because there's probably gonna be a need for that, or at least allow them to have a larger pool. And allow us to have that pool for transports if we decide we're going to convert the van and do those transports. I know there's, yeah, you know, we've got this van and we're paying insurance on it, we're paying for maintenance on it. But as it is used today, we're upside down on that thing. This would allow us to get more use out of it and not pay those transport costs that we're paying right now. We might have to check with insurance, Marty brought up, we need to check with insurance, we need to do more with insurance as we're transporting dead bodies, I don't know.
Okay, well, what have we solved?
Well, at some point, we've got to decide there with the 175 at some point.
And right now it's how much? 138?
65
65.
for investigations only and 175 for autopsies required. The other line items that are in yellow there, we've got Bernie. Did Bernie provide you with any comparables?
No, well, I haven't talked to Bernie for a while, but no, he hasn't.
Okay.
So.
And then I've just got John's part-time person in there, which is an additional person. And Nikki's salary is just highlighted there just because she'll be if she's not already, she'll be at that 2702. She's may not be there yet unless she's recently gone there. I don't know.
It's some training that I.
So that's what I've got with that. I did take off, I had yellow highlighted for Department 40 with all of the collection site substitutes. But I think what Jacob had in the budget is covering them well with, if there is I don't know if you put any increase for those substitutes, I don't know.
I haven't looked at that department
Yeah.
very closely at all, so.
I think he's got that covered. And when I look at it, I don't think there's anything you need to do. It's just if they get an increase or not, when we certify wages, we'll just have to make sure we're covering that. But I believe he may have put 3% in there because he wanted to get the budget done before he left and thought 3% might be where the board was going with that. I think the budget's
So there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't even know, that was another thing that I think we were gonna, what's that?
They have about 11 substitutes.
So some of those may be weaned off of there. Morgan just said she's waiting for Tracy to tell her
Okay.
if some of those are still on there or not. So that's the wage part of it. But I do think, did you come up with something?
Yes, I did. You guys asked about, youngest technician.
Assistance? Yeah.
Youngest assistant to the engineer. I do have minutes and his wage.
Did you find it?
We did. So it's actually a 2% increase per year. It was already figured into Jacob's budget. There's a copy here for Boyd,
So then it's the 2% plus whatever.
plus
supervisor.
whatever the supervisors provide for the technician position.
Gotcha.
For Boyd, if you would like.
22 it was, huh?
What it looks like.
Nice.
So
Just
the
couldn't remember.
goal is after 5 years, he would get to the full assistant to the technician, assistant to the engineer's salary. Any other questions I can answer on here?
Good information. This is just what I was looking for. I knew there was something out
And I didn't have it because I didn't have access to it, so I found it.
there. But does this go, was it 5 years or something that it goes for? That
Yes,
they
5
had
years.
some schedule?
Yep.
So this is just part of,
It just, this year and next year, yes.
gotcha.
So as the years go on, depending on what general raise you give for the technician position, then add on 2%
Yeah.
on that October date.
If you go to those October 3rd, 2022 minutes, there's probably something in the file too that has the 5 year.
So does it mean we're already behind on 5 years?
Huh?
Does that mean we're already behind on 5 years?
No, I
think
believe it's been following, from what I can tell.
I may not have it in here,
It just
because
may
I
not,
wasn't thinking of that when I put this together to starting at 0 thing. But
it looks like it has been
But I'll
followed,
update.
so.
this too.
Right,
Yeah, so I'll put this in here then with the 2.75, but I'll put the fiscal year 26 numbers in here too. That'll show the 2% plus the, they'll want to do 3% on top of it.
I would still recommend doing 3% for the technicians. It looks like they're falling a little behind. I want to try to keep them with the average. I've done, I said, with the sheet I gave you earlier, I looked at the 9 counties, or 8 counties around us. And they're not bad yet, but they're not, I want to try to keep them average, so. Engineering, the engineering field in general is a very competitive field right now. It's hard to find engineers, technicians, just in general. So I don't want us to fall behind anymore, let's put it that way. I don't think we're too far off, but I don't want us to slip. All right,
Thanks, Aaron.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll update that part. Okay, so I guess I want to talk non-wage things that I think we have to address in the budget. So I'm just gonna kind of go through some things that were non-wage. Adam has a transfer of $105,000 from Department 22 to Department 68. That's what's approved by the Board of Supervisors. That takes what he has in revenues and throws it into conservation reserve.
Adam Sears.
Yeah, Adam Sears Department 22 and 68. But that's based on board action on what's allowed to be carried over. But I think, didn't he have a larger purchase item in the budget or not? That sometimes the board offsets that transfer, but he's just got a large purchase item. Like a vehicle or a tractor or a thing like, something like that, that he.
talked about you. Oh. Is there something you need to know?
Oh, 60,000.
There's no more update for you guys. So maybe that explains why we're over from this year, but not next year.
So do we want to offset the 16,599 by anything on the 105,000?
That's from rural services, right? No,
General fund. Information is general fund.
Different animal. I'm gonna have to start being very clear which
Yeah.
animal we're talking about.
I went 22. So this is like stuff that we need to like get some, make decisions. We gotta keep moving on this budget for Morgan to get stuff on the state site so we can get our March hearing set and move forward, our first hearing set. So next Monday, we've gotta make these decisions here. So could you keep notes on these specific things or the transfer?
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's transfer the conservation and offset by the. Gail's budget, Department 39, if Bernie can get things going with that, doing away with NGT, then that would be potential reduction in Gail's budget.
Is the letter acronym?
Next generation technology is NGT. And that's where Bernie has talked about for the last couple of years of doing away with NGT. And Gail's ready to do away with NGT if Bernie's willing to take it over. And that's where Bernie'd like a little extra compensation, but that would take a line item on, or a huge chunk of money out of Gail's budget if we don't have.
the Shriver.
Just right now.
That,
We're kind of talking about non-wage
non-wage.
budget.
So do you have anything different?
No, just when I met with them last week or whenever it was, they were gonna try to find 5,000 in his budget to support his 5,000 increase in salary.
Are you talking an increase above the 50,000 we already got? So they
He's
don't,
not at 50,000. Well, no, from 45 to 50.
we've already got it in there as an option, and they wouldn't have to find another
Okay,
5,000.
that's what I wanted to confirm. Yeah, okay.
Well, I didn't know if you were talking about he wanted more than 50.
No,
And I know that was, we talked about it's $5,000 increase is actually, right now he's 45,454 or something like that. Should it be 5,000 or 50,454, whatever that number is?
I have it. Finally, if I can read this small. Todd Shriver's
Like
at 45,420, you'll go to 54,420.
Yeah. Which way do you want that? I don't care either way. You know, leave it at 5,000 or at the 45, at the 50,000, or do you want 50,420?
No, 50,000 even, I think. 50,000.
250, okay. All right. And then, general assistance. Actually, I have a county social services meeting on Wednesday, but we know they are not going to be doing general assistance, even if they get that disability access point contract. So what are we gonna do with general assistance?
What number is that?
38. So,
38.
we don't have any employees there now. This is the in-kind swap that we do with mental health. They does it and then they get free office space. And Jamie do it and they get free office space, but that goes away June 30th.
It's not that general assistance goes away, our help with general assistance goes away.
Correct. And I just got an email from her today that the decision on disability access point has not been made yet. So Renee suggested crisis intervention might be, or no, North Iowa Community Action Organization might be an option. We've talked about, is there a position that could cover it? Like Morgan's got someone searching someone for work in the auditor's office. Is there something there? Or Todd would like Chantel to be able to have more hours, but then you get into, I don't know how many hours she's working. But is there an employee that could do general assistance? I guess is what I'm saying. He thought North Iowa Community Action Organization can do it for like $5,000 a year. So you can bump Department 36 up by $5,000.
38.
38, sorry, 38 up.
Jill McKean, Department 36.
We don't have to worry about her in our budget because she's her own fund.
Okay.
Same with, we don't have to worry about Nancy Lund, child support recovery, because the state's automatically giving them a 3% increase, and it's a net effect because what they reimburse us. So we get a little kickback by being the fiscal for that. Same with Jill. Whatever the county sets for a wage is likely what Jill will get for a wage increase. And that is up to the Board of Supervisors. But I would say the 2.75 is probably sufficient there, but it doesn't impact the budget because she's an entirely separate fund. It doesn't hit our budget.
Which is completely separate from the general assistance we were just talking about, because Gloria misspoke the department number. So we were talking about 38, which isn't Jill.
Yeah.
38.
Yeah. There shouldn't be any people in it. You heard you say 36, you found Jill at 36.
Right. But you're not gonna.
There is no employees in 38.
No, the one I can't find it. Okay.
Correct. But we will likely have to pay someone to do it going forward, because currently mental health makes an exchange. One of their employees is a general assistance working for office space. But we won't have mental health.
I don't know if you have your budget binder with you, but that would probably be more resourceful than wages, because we're talking about non-wage things.
I've got it in my car.
Do we want to throw another 5,000 in 36?
38.
38, I'm sorry, 38.
You're asking me?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that'd be okay.
You probably have to build a new line item, or there might be an old line item out there.
wage line item?
Won't be a wage if it's be a contract service, if we have North Iowa Community Action do it, if we have a department that has an employee that can do it, then that would be
So how do you want me to proceed for budget purposes?
I just put it 5,000 in a contract service line item, a 4,000 or 400 number. I think if we could nail down some of this, then I could make more time this week to work on updating these numbers to this. I feel a lot better than doing my spreadsheets on it. And then Department 33, missed that one. That's the libraries. The libraries asked for a 3% increase. In the budget, we've got 0. I have some empathy for the libraries just because cities are trying to decide if they can make the 27-cent levy that libraries have lost through House File 718. And the cities are either making it up in their $8.10 or their general levy, like our 350, they have an $8.10. How they can make it up in that $8, their $8.10. So I have some empathy there with the libraries not getting.
Been a big issue in Cassup County.
Yeah, that's a tough one because that's a voted levy. The people voted for that levy, and then for it to get pulled out from is unfortunate.
So it doesn't show up on these sheets, does it? Section or
No.
Department 33, did you say it was?
Yes, correct, Department 33. I think we're done with that sheet. I don't think you'll find anything on that sheet anymore. A 3% increase puts them at $99,515.51. So $99,516. What we could do is we could put that 3% increase or 2% or 1%, whatever you want, whatever we think. I don't mean whatever you want. I have to keep talking and not my auditors conversation, but it's a $2,899 increase to be given 3%. If we give them
2001.
$899.
3%.
That's a rounding number. That's a 3% increase on their 96,617 that they're currently getting.
For those libraries.
Yeah. My thoughts are, what if we throw that $2,899 increase and put it at 99,516 in the budget, see where we land. We could remove it. That's one I probably lean that we probably should maybe try to support if we could.
Isn't in the spreadsheet anywhere, is it? Or is
The spreadsheet you're looking at is only wages.
it? Same thing with this.
Yes,
So
correct.
you can just push that aside. You're not gonna be looking at that spreadsheet anymore. This is your budget stuff that we're looking at. Are you okay? I would suggest we put that increase in the budget. And if we feel we can't do that, we take it out. But it's like I say, it's $2,899. I'd say we try to give that to those.
That's 3%.
3% is the $2,899. You good with that if we throw that in the budget? do we, guess I'm gonna talk wages a little bit for dispatcher. They want a part-time employee added to their fleet. So a part-time employee wouldn't be able to work more than 29 hours. So that's a number that I've had in there on that levy rate sheet with an adjustment that is,
Where did you say?
they're 65, from 65. So that's $40,746 for a 29-hour a week person.
That's the part-time line that's shaded on this.
Yes. I was like, I just, those guys are working. They're the one that you can look at that overtime. To me, that's how you determine if you need additional staff for looking at that overtime. Their department shows they can support, instead of paying time and a half in wages, a regular pay part-time person seems justified in that department. Especially knowing they potentially have some retirements coming up.
What wage would that be? Would that be at the $27 now?
And it would be at the 27.02 or something like that.
So 2702, and what percent of an increase to?
It's not that it's an increase. It's a brand new position. Actually, I looked at my notes there. I put it at 29 hours, but I see in my notes, John had 24 hours. That could come down a little bit.
I had 24 hours a week.
Yeah, so I can change the spreadsheet to put that at 24 hours. He just can't exceed he might be in a better position. If that person does end up working more than 29, it would not put it in their overtime, it would put it in his straight pay, for that person's straight pay. I'm gonna change that. So I'd like to see that one in the budget, or if I throw that one in there too, Dennis. Yeah, Morgan, throw that one in there.
That's that part-time
Yes,
for,
24 hours, I'm changing it to 24 instead of what I had in there was 29.
that's for dispatch.
Dispatch, 65, department 65.
At 2702 an hour. 24 hours a week.
Yeah, so that number will change on that sheet.
I I guess I'm okay with that. So it's 47.46. Would be a little more than that,
Less.
or a little less than that.
Yep.
Because of from 29 to 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 30, the 2702 rate, which they won't likely be at that right away, but it'd be $33,720.90. And then when they get an increase, it would put them at 2776, and it'd be a $927 increase after 6 months. If they do 3% or 2.75.
So that's a part-timer of 2702.
Like an extra on this too. I've got it on here,
There, that part-timer at dispatch will be making more than this and Melissa.
but
Completely different jobs,
different shifts.
different shifts. and
They get
different
2 cent
jobs.
premium for shift, and
Okay.
I put the 2702, they could be working a $27 shift, or they could work a 2702 shift. They'll start out at less than that, whatever their starting rate is. But I just, for budget purposes, I just put it at what they'll be at in that fiscal year.
Just comparing it to Minnesota and Melissa.
Oh, yeah, nothing like, no stress.
We need to compare it to the
Comparison.
other dispatchers, not Minnesota and Melissa. Dispatch is 63.
Yes, 65.
So 65. It's done here 65. This gray line is the part-time that they're proposing adding. So it would put them in line with the other dispatchers.
Do you want to fund Healthy Harvest? We have not funded Healthy Harvest for years. I'm kind of okay with that, but I'm game if you guys want to give them a little something.
That's a little something. $1,500.
I was saying 1,000 maybe. I don't know what they asked for. They asked for 1,500. You have a new ambulance number for Green Ambulance, you put that in there, didn't you?
I don't remember
That one we were in,
if we were doing,
or
if we did it while you were sitting there.
well,
Yes.
the city. That
It's
was,
not
that's
that
the much better. Do $1,000 or 1,500 for Healthy Harvest, and what are you thinking?
You get the brochure, did I see that?
Here's the letter, if you want the letter. What's that?
I need to use the restroom, but we're pretty much on the
You have a brochure that shows who participates in that.
Not a big deal, but so whatever. I don't know how much time we have to spend on it. We'll just plug in.
Well, give me 1,500. I mean,
You can put 1,500 in and
that's what we've done in the past.
no, we have not funded them in the past.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, did I misread that letter?
We have not funded them for several years,
They've made a presentation to us. So
every year.
every year, okay.
So we need to talk about.
Area Development Corporation. I don't necessarily have an answer, but they're asking 85,000 and we just don't have an answer yet on how much TIF will fund that 85,000. I've got a meeting tomorrow I've got I'm gonna be in Des Moines tomorrow, but I've got a call with Steve Deers at 3 p.m. that I've asked him if we could push it out a little bit, another half hour or so. I could be on the road on my way back home. I heard back from him.
How much do we currently pay ADC on the job here? How much do we currently pay?
47,100 and TIF pays the 16,000. Whatever, 17, 18,000. But he wants 85 is what he's requesting.
Will TIF participate in that then?
That's what I'll find out tomorrow. If we dissolve from TIF, that hinders us getting any or anything.
What did Tim tell us he needed additional money for, the 85,000?
He just said they haven't had an increase for a while and their costs are going up. And yeah. So how about if that one, if I do that phone call tomorrow or if it gets rescheduled, whatever, but I kind of go with whatever message I get from John Danos. That we're gonna be able to keep at least getting I don't know, it's on that spreadsheet, of course. Currently, we pay total is 65,600, but we pay 47,100 and 47,100. Sorry, there's off 1,000 there, and the fund pays. I said 46.
I guess when I wrote down 3,700 or 37,100.
No, 47,100 or 46,100. I think is what he said. But we pay 47,100, and TIF pays 18,500. So if we can get TIF to continue to pay a chunk of that 85,000, and I just plugged something in there based on that conversation. So it means we could change it if we had to, but I don't know. I feel like for 85,000, I almost feel like maybe there needs to be to the ADC board at least some accountability of what efforts are made to get new business here. And I'm new on the ADC board, so I don't know what's happened so far, but I know there's a lot of stuff that is like, oh, that's not privy, but I feel like maybe some de-identified attempts for reaching out could be privy to us. I mean, we're gonna go from 65,600 and increase it nearly $20,000. You know, a third of our budget.
You know, attempts are one thing, but results are another.
Yeah, but nobody even knows what the attempts are.
Well, I thought I heard that Casey's is gonna build a truck stop out there.
Yeah, but Casey's been piling on that for 10 years.
Well, that's what I mean. That's an attempt with no results.
I don't know that that was their attempt.
So,
I don't know if that was even ADC's attempt.
Is ADC just Charles City or is ADC?
ADC does do the entire county.
So what are they looking at in other cities?
He's done things like he's helped with some grant work in Rockford to get down their old buildings and things like that. I think he's helped with some North Springs projects.
but this industrial site, we have nothing. I mean, and I know Tim works at it, but it's, you have to wonder why it isn't more attractive for some reason. It's on a 4-lane highway and could be an ideal location.
I would just like to see, if we're gonna do 85,000, I think we should get more information.
Either that or leave it. We've been doing 60.
We've been doing
47,000.
47,100 and TIF has been paying,
Okay.
they were 17,500 and I think they were shooting. My $1,000 might be off one way or the other on that. The TIF is paying or that,
Oh, that's,
so I may be off there one way or the other.
I just was writing what it come from, so I understand, for my understanding.
But the
Because
total,
they're requesting 85,000 total.
Yep.
However, but you're gonna talk to Southwest Board and stuff.
I'm gonna talk,
TIF stuff.
John, we've got Steve Deers and I have a call to John Danos, the attorney that does TIF work. And see, because that's my thing, if we dissolve the TIF, do we lose any say in funding using TIF dollars to fund ADC? Because my thoughts is if we don't make up that 18,500, I don't know that we're gonna give them $85,000 total
Yeah.
of all of it.
Well, can we wait until you and Steve figure it out?
Yeah.
Can we?
Yeah,
Okay.
so he hasn't gotten back to me on I sent him a message last week about doing it a little bit later, but. I'll just leave the meeting early, if anything, so that I can have a good time to talk to him on the way back from the point. Other than that, there were things, but like the alarm services with the new phone system, but I think that's going in this, wasn't Brady gonna try getting that in this budget year, or was he gonna have it paid for next budget year? I don't know where, I just remember this. Make sure we got that. Actually, put it back in there. And turn over paper or whatever. Otherwise, that's I think all I have.
Anything else, Dennis?
My head is just spinning.
I can relate.
Okay.
I'll be gone tomorrow, but you've got some time Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that we can hook up and throw these numbers in and try to wrap this up and we can pull an insurance report to see what everybody's got for insurance and there's some, we could get
Insurance report? Sorry.
health and dental
Oh,
insurance.
yes. Wednesday? What time do you want to start?
Did you think the demo was gonna be a 6% increase?
It will
It is.
be. That's the only option we
When we met with the Teamsters, you know, we told them it would be much of an
It's
increase in
$2.
health insurance.
It's like $2 or $2.50 a month.
got. But we told them we didn't, I told them we didn't have that quote, we didn't have the 6% at that time, but we didn't know if there was gonna be other.
We didn't have the 6%
We didn't
at
have
that
the
time. We had the 0%.
So the Wellmark is the primary one
Yeah, so the dental's a small part of the
It's
overall.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
Some of them have dental, some of them don't.
Yep,
But it's got just that 6% increase on the dental side.
okay.
And that will be an agenda item for next week to set those health and dental rates, so we can.
That's it. Calendar, and we're gonna make-
We're done, we need a motion to adjourn.
Wednesday afternoon. I make motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Friends.
Bye, Mark.